Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Deeper Dive. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. This show is produced by Jordan Klein. You can find him on Twitter at Jordan Klein. And we are here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. The show is sponsored by No House Advantage, which has some great options today for both versus the house and, of course, playing the Pick'em contest. We're likely to see some overlay. We'll have to do an overlay check-in later, see how close we are to fill in that one. But usually those contests have been overlaying on No House Advantage. So check those out. Adam, it's been a little while since you and I did a show together, and I don't think that this 4-game slate is the one I would have chosen for us to start doing shows together again, because as I was just recalling before the show, the first time you and I did a baseball show together, we got right to business. It was like an 8-game slate, and we got through all the games with like 15 minutes to spare, and we had to like go to chat, ask some, answer some questions, that kind of stuff. You think we're gonna be able to fill up this hour with these 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like we both just kind of get to the point and, then we're done with it. We're not like Josh and Lofty where we're just there rambling about random bullshit for like 30 minutes. So I'll have to make a conscious effort to just say a bunch of dumb shit and take the Josh role.
We're going to talk about literally every player on this slate just to fill up this time. But yeah, we're definitely two of the more to the point people on these shows. And in particular, because I was used to hosting with Terry can go on, like for an MLB show, he touches on like every single batter, gets in depth with the stats. I love talking with him about it, but it's a different pace when you're going from Terry to Adam. But I'm excited to do this show with you, and we can jump right into it. As I said, we've got 4 games on the slate: Detroit at Charlotte, Miami at Philly, Boston at the Knicks, and Orlando at the Pelicans. We'll start with the Detroit at Charlotte game. But actually, before we really jump into the game by game, Adam, do you have any overarching thoughts about this slate?
There's a lot of value. There's only a few pay up spots with it being a 4-gamer, but they are good pay up spots with LaMelo, Embiid, and Tatum. So I think it kind of just forces you into at least some sort of like a stars and scrubs build. Not saying you have to like jam in 2 or 3 of those guys or anything, but you're just going, Josh and I talked about it this morning. Like you have a bunch of ownership coming into all 3 of those main pay up guys. So it kind of just comes down to like, if you're going into the slate saying, I'm just not going to play the Pistons game, or I'm going to go more balanced. Like you're just going to end up putting yourself in a really like low probability position. So without even sort of like thinking about your roster construction, you're just naturally going to sort of end up on similar builds. I saw somebody in chat say something about holding hands on the slate. And, I think that the nice thing is there's plenty of good plays. So like ownership will kind of be kept in check, but it is kind of a slate where I think there are some just very, very obvious plays that are going to be tough to get away from.
Yeah, for sure. Good to see Terry is in chat, and he has offered to jump in and waste 15 minutes for us just to go in depth on every player. So thank you for that, Terry. Yeah. So
Josh also in chat pointing out that I have no trouble saying stupid things.
Perfect. Well, that's what we found ways we're going to waste time just saying stupid things or calling on other people to come in and talk about the slate. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So like Greg and I talked about it yesterday on a larger slate where, Greg and Eric on Live Before Lock will often advocate for saving space for like later players, for like news to break. This isn't one of those kind of slates at all, because we only have 4 games, and the last game of the night, the Orlando at Pelicans game, locks just an hour after the first game. So we're probably not looking at a ton of late breaking news. Are you anticipating any kind of late injury news breaking?
No, I mean,
I guess we'll get
like you said, it can't be too late. The last game's at 8 p.m. So right. I'm not expecting anything too crazy there. Like there's no questionable players in that game. Everybody on the injury report is listed as out. There's not even a doubtful player in the Pelicans and Magic game. You have a probable Derek White at 7:30.
Yep. Yeah. So we should have all the injury news probably before the first lock. I mean, obviously stuff can happen, but yeah, this is definitely not a slate where you are going to be, saving spots necessarily for the later games, because we're not really anticipating much breaking news after lock.
And to the holding hands point, I just refreshed the DraftKings ownership. There are 6 players projected for at least 44% ownership.
Yeah, that's on a 4-game slate. I mean, that's just, it definitely is a concern that we're going to be holding hands, hopefully not duplicating, but we're going to be, at the very least, there's going to be a lot of 1v1s across the board, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to make lineups that are just like contrarian lineups unless you're just willing to light money on fire and hope to get really lucky.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, I think we can jump into this first game, which I think is probably the most interesting game on the slate, the Detroit at Charlotte game. I should double check that that's actually the game we have listed first because we have two games. Okay, so we've got those two games starting at the same time. Yeah, we do have the Detroit at Charlotte is our first game listed, and I think it's kind of the most interesting game on the slate. So I think that that is a good place to start. We've got, I mean, Detroit is just missing several players, and as a result, most of the top value on the slate. Just I'm sorting by our value score right now, and it looks like 7 of our top 8 in terms of just raw value score are Pistons players. So that is pretty nuts. You don't see.
And we could get more between now and lock also.
You mean from that game or from?
Yeah, from the Pistons specifically.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Isaiah Stewart, I guess, is questionable. He's the only remaining questionable, right?
Yes. So Bojan Bogdanovic was ruled out around noon. The 4:30 injury report for the Pistons still has Bojan Bogdanovic as questionable. I assume he's out, but there is also some chance that that was just shitty reporting.
Okay, so I had not seen that he was on the latest injury report. He's out in our projections. I saw that he was ruled out. So
nobody has walked back that report, but yeah, I refreshed the injury report right before the show and saw he was questionable. I was like, oh, I must have pulled the 11 or the 9:31 from this morning again. So X'd out of it, made sure I had the 4:30 injury report. He's still questionable on there. So I'm assuming he's out, but just be ready for like a Pistons starting lineup that has Bojan Bogdanovic, and everyone's just like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to change things drastically if he is in. Like, so even earlier in the day when he was in, a lot of the top value was from Detroit, but that is going to be very important because some of these players aren't going to look quite so good. I mean, all of them across the board, we're probably going to see some kind of a negative bump if Bojan Bogdanovic does magically show up in that starting lineup. That is going to affect things drastically. So I guess all we can say there is stick around for live before lock because they'll probably, I mean, they will get the starting lineup at some point during live before lock, assuming we don't get it during this show, because that will be very important. If Bojan Bogdanovic magically does end up playing this game, it's going to take away at least some of this value. It'll just probably condense it a little bit more, unfortunately. And then, of course, we've got Isaiah Stewart questionable. He is currently among the top value plays. He's one of those 7 who is one of our best value plays. So we might lose him and gain somebody else from the Pistons if Isaiah Stewart is ruled out. Who do you think would benefit from that if Isaiah Stewart is ruled out? I mean, I would think Bagley. Bagley already is one of our top value plays. Also, I have to imagine he gets a little bit of a bump if Isaiah Stewart is ruled out. Is there anybody else who you think, like, do you see anybody who becomes an interesting value who is not currently if Isaiah Stewart is ruled out?
Yeah, just to quickly reiterate, because it seems like half of chat wasn't listening. We know Bojan Bogdanovic is. It was reported that he is out. He's currently listed as questionable on the injury report. That's probably just a clerical error by the Pistons, but on the injury report, he's not out. That's all we were talking about. As far as Isaiah Stewart goes, if he's out, I think it does benefit Marvin Bagley. My expectation is that you will get Weissman starting regardless today. I wouldn't be surprised if Stewart's out, if they go with the double big lineup with Weissman and Bagley. And even if they don't go with that starting lineup, it still opens the door for them, for Bagley and Weissman to play minutes alongside each other. So, maybe they play 52 or 54 minutes instead of 48 total. So if he's out, I think it does open more minutes for Weissman. Whereas if Stewart's in, I think you can still play Bagley, but it's more so as like a large field tournament play where you hope James Weissman gets in foul trouble. Last game you got 22 and a half minutes from Weissman, 26 from, or 22 minutes from Weissman, 26 from Bagley, or 27 from Bagley. But that was because Weissman was in foul trouble. They only combined for 48 minutes. If Stewart's in, you can still play a lower owned Bagley and just sort of hope that Weissman gets in foul trouble or Bagley plays more minutes for one reason or another. But he's clearly not going to be that good of a play. He's 4,500. He's still getting 16% ownership. If Stewart's out, it does increase the chances that you could get like 26 to 28 minutes from Weissman and 24 to 26 from Bagley.
So do you think that, so we currently have Bagley projected for just over 25 minutes. Do you think that's a little bit too high for Bagley where we have it right now? And that's with Isaiah Stewart in. So with Isaiah Stewart in, the site is projecting Bagley for around 25 minutes. Do you project him for lower than that if Stewart is in?
Probably. So, I mean, we have 20, it's reasonable. We have 26 to Weissman. We have 25 to Bagley. So we have them playing 3 minutes alongside each other. Assuming Bojan's out, which, is the assumption in projections right now, you could certainly get a few minutes of them alongside each other anyway. Like Stewart starts alongside Weissman, but then you just end up getting a couple minutes with Bagley at the 4, where Livers is playing the 3 or something like that. It could certainly happen. So I think it's a reasonable projection. That they would play, a couple minutes more than 48. If Stewart's out, I think you could get, like a 28 to 30 minute projection for Weissman and like 26 for Bagley or something like that.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. Okay. So I think, first of all, let's talk cash games just for a second. I'm not a cash game player. Have you been playing cash games this year?
No, I played the first slate of the season, pretty much duped with every regular and was like, oh yeah, this is why I don't play NBA cash games.
Okay. So neither of us coming from the perspective of playing cash games this year, but how many Pistons would you play? First of all, in a cash game lineup, how many Pistons do you think make your cash game lineup? And I guess, we're not building out a lineup right now, so maybe it's hard to answer without building out and seeing who actually would make it into a lineup.
My assumption is 4.
Okay. That was my assumption also. We've got, I think the 4 top projected values on the slate. Yeah. So we've got Burks, Wiseman, Hayes, and Diallo are the top 4 point per dollar plays on the entire slate right now. Would you have any concern going to 5 or 6 players from the same team in a cash setting?
In general, no. It doesn't happen all that often. You need very specific circumstances, but in cash, I'm typically, or not me because I don't really play it, but you're typically you're typically going to play one of your just highest projected lineups, and you're trying to account for volatility and floor. Like you don't, if you have a lineup that projects slightly better, but you know that one of the players in there is going to play 13 minutes or 26 minutes, and his projection is kind of in the middle, and then you can play another lineup that the projection is a little bit lower, and you have a player with less minutes volatility, you're probably going to take the latter. But it's not typically a situation where I'm looking, and as long as I'm comfortable with the minutes projections, if I get like 5 guys from a team, I'm not going to really care. Again, as long as I'm comfortable with the minutes projections. If it's a situation where I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, well, these 3 guys all project well, but in reality, I only think 2 of them are going to play enough minutes to be good plays, then I care. But in a situation like this, like you have Burks, Weissman, Hayes, Diallo, all just clearly look like really good values. If it turns out that my top lineup also had a $5,100 Isaiah Stewart, like that would be perfectly fine. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm only playing 4.
Okay. Yeah. And I was also thinking, like, in this case, because the Pistons, all of the great plays, like they're great value plays, like they're all inexpensive. So at some point you want to just get projection in there as well. So maybe if we had like these 4 Pistons plus one $8,000 Piston, who was also one of the top point per dollar plays, it would make sense. But yeah, I don't know. That's just an interesting thought about, like, for GPPs, I set a cap, and I usually set that cap at 3 players from a team in GPPs. Sometimes I make an exception and I will up it to 4, which I think is maybe how I'm approaching this Pistons team tonight, setting my cap at 4 for the Pistons in GPPs. How do you feel about in GPPs? What do you think you would set your cap at for the Pistons? And is that something you do? Do you set a hard cap, or do you just let your lineups figure it out?
Typically, I kind of just let the lineups figure it out. Like obviously on FanDuel, you're not going more than 4. On DraftKings, I'm pretty much never going more than 5 unless it's like a 2-gamer. But typically, I'll just sort of let projections figure it out. And the way I think about it is like, it never feels good to have a bunch of guys from the same team, because I think the predominant theory, the way most people think, is that, there's only one ball to go around. So there's only so many shots, blah, blah, blah. And all that's true. But there is also some sort of a stacking effect in NBA where if you get a competitive game, that's good for everybody. If you get a game that plays at a faster pace than anticipated, that's good for everybody. If you get a game where the refs have a quick whistle and everybody's getting to the line constantly, that's good for everybody. So there are some positive correlation aspects as well. And then the other way I think about it is, assuming you're building lineups off of median projections or something similar, if I have 5 guys from a team showing up in a lineup, it's telling me that even without assuming anything crazy happens, they're at least reasonable plays. So as long as they're all like, I don't typically want to play guys that are, not going to play any minutes alongside each other. So that's, its own independent thing. But if I'm getting lineups where I have 5 guys, like I don't like it. And on a bigger slate, I wouldn't do it. But like also on a bigger slate, it's just not going to show up. Whereas on a slate like this, I don't really want to arbitrarily say, well, I'm just capping it at 3 or I'm capping it at 4. I realize most lineups I play are probably only going to have 3, maybe 4. But I don't want to just like arbitrarily decide, well, I have 4 of the best plays on the slate in Burks, Weissman, Hayes, Diallo, so I can't have Stewart or Livers or whatever. Especially if you're playing like 150 lineups. If you're playing 1 or 2 or 3, then yes, use that as a tiebreaker if you want. Don't go more than 4. But yeah, I think that The positive correlation effects seem to always sort of like not get talked about when people talk about how many players from a team.
Yeah, that is a good point. There is some positive correlation there as well. But then what about a bring back? So like if you say you played five Pistons from a game, from this game, would you consider playing five Pistons without any bringbacks from Charlotte?
In a case like this, like I wouldn't really care because again, it's a pricing equation, and when you have like again, just talking about those main four Pistons, Burks, Weissman, Diallo, all 35, 36, 3,700 on DraftKings. Killian Hayes is 4,600. So you're allocating basically nothing to these guys. All four of them can very easily pay, like do well for those price tags, and the Pistons not be running away with this game. So I don't think you have to force a run back. I think that there's still that positive correlation where if this game plays at a faster pace than expected or goes to overtime or something like that, then clearly the more players the better. But I don't think it's a situation where if you have those four main guys where it's just like, oh, well, somebody from Charlotte has to have a massive game. Like it can be a competitive game, but LaMelo Ball still loses to Jason Tatum, or Terry Rozier still loses to, CJ McCollum or something like that. So it's not like it forces anybody on Charlotte to necessarily be someone that you have to have just because those Pistons guys do well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that we spent a little bit of time going through just the game theory of how to play this team, because I do think the Pistons are kind of the most important team to get right on this slate. I mean, maybe that's not right, but they're an important team to talk about on the slate because you get most of your good value from the Pistons. But let's jump into the actual Pistons themselves, the plays themselves. Who are you prioritizing here? How would you rank these Pistons today?
Weissman, especially on DraftKings, power forward center, 3,700 would be number one. I think it's just really, really easy to get him into lineups. Burks at 3,500 is really tough to get away from. When you take Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Bojan Bogdanovic off the floor this year, you've gotten 398 minutes from Burks, 25% usage rate, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute. Hayes has a 22% usage rate, 1.04 DraftKings points per minute, 37% assist percentage. And that 1.04 DraftKings points per minute on Hayes is on 39.9% true shooting. So, like, he cannot really shoot worse than that. No, like you can't expect anybody to continue shooting that poorly, and he's still averaging over a fantasy point per minute. So it just kind of speaks to how productive you can expect him to be. Also, clearly a good matchup against Charlotte. But so I think Weissman would be one for me. It's pretty close, but I would go Burks just because he's 3,500. Then Hayes, Diallo 4, I guess, but it's still like a 4 that I really like. He's shooting guard, small forward. He's 3,600. I assume he's coming off the bench, so there is some risk there where he still just plays mid 20s in minutes, but he's another basically fantasy point per minute guy. So I like him a lot, but he would be fourth behind Weissman, Hayes, and Burks.
Yeah, so I mean, it just shows how good the value is here today with Detroit. That Diallo is your fourth, and he's projected a 6.3x value, or no, 7x value. Sorry, for Hamidou Diallo, and he is the fourth best of the Pistons value. That's pretty.
And that's only a 24.5-minute projection as well. It's not like we have him projected to play 30 minutes, and if he's not in the starting lineup, you need to cut back on him. It's a 24-minute projection, which is completely reasonable if he's coming off the bench.
Yeah. And I want to touch on something from chat. So Judd Sudak asks, can you explain only wanting to play players that share the court together? Is it just an assist thing? And I think what Adam is saying is, if there are two players who like sub in and sub out for each other, it really limits the upside. Like there's limited upside of, so for example, tonight we've got Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein there. As far as I don't think they're going to play any minutes together. And typically it's going to be like Mitchell Robinson playing 30 and Isaiah Hartenstein playing 18. What you want if you play Hartenstein is that maybe Mitchell Robinson gets in foul trouble, or for Hartenstein gets hot, so then he ends up playing more minutes, and they just negatively correlate with each other because they never play minutes together. Is that kind of what you were saying, Adam?
Yeah, it's not like a correlation thing or anything like that. It's just that the perfect example is the other side of this game with Mark Williams and Nick Richards. They both individually are solid enough plays, 5,900 for Williams, 3,600 for Richards. But to really have that tournament winning game from Nick Richards, you need him to play more than the night, 18 to 20 minutes you're going to project him for. You need him to play like 22 to 24 minutes. And that can happen. But the way it happens is through Mark Williams playing less minutes, whether that's foul trouble, blowout, random rotations, whatever it may be. Every minute Nick Richards plays is taking away from Mark Williams. Whereas when you talk about guys that share the floor together, they can just all play a bunch of minutes and all have good games. Whereas it's a lot more difficult if you're not going to share the floor with somebody because there's only 48 minutes maximum.
Okay. Yeah, it's That's good explanation. Man, I'm seeing even Corey Joseph down here at 3,100 is a 5.4x value score. So, and these Pistons. Let's talk about just like your how many Pistons do you think are going to make it into your player pool, or who do you have some interest in playing tonight? And then also I want to ask, just are you setting any groups for the Pistons? Like, are there some that from the Pistons who you are not willing to play together?
I think so. If Stewart's in, I think Weissman and Bagley is kind of a fringe. Like you could go either way. If it were a larger slate, I definitely wouldn't want them together. On a 4-gamer, I don't hate having them together, especially because Weissman has power forward eligibility. So it's not like you're taking up both your center spots. But I think that one's really borderline if Stewart's in. Again, if he's out, I think it opens the door for more minutes of them alongside each other. So I definitely wouldn't set that rule if Stewart's out. But other than that, I don't think there's really rules that I care about too much here. Like I probably wouldn't want like the rules that I would set. You're just not going to get lineups that it's affected by anyway. Like I don't want Corey Joseph and RJ Hampton together, but like you're never going to get that. The reason I wouldn't want them together is chances are one of them is going to pick up some extra minutes off the bench, and I don't know which one it is. But like you're just never going to get that anyway, so it doesn't matter. But other than that, I don't really care too much about rules. On this team, like I try and think about it typically in terms of closing lineups. And I assume that if this game's competitive, Weissman or Bagley is in the closing lineup. Hayes is in the closing lineup. Stewart probably, if he's in, is probably in the closing lineup. And then you're just getting like two of Burks, Diallo, Livers, maybe, Joseph or Hampton, but probably two of those other three. So it's a pretty wide open team, I think, outside of having kind of to make a decision for yourself on the Weissman Bagley call.
Okay. And then let's talk about just the actual players a little bit more. So we have 8 players who project for 5.4x or better, just in terms of their point per dollar value score. RJ Hampton down at 4.5, and then Rodney McGruder at 2.8. Those are all 10 of the active Pistons tonight. So 8 of them look like pretty good value, and just in terms of raw point per dollar plays. Do you think you're going to play some of all of these guys? So it's Alec Burks, James Wiseman. I'm going in order of their value score here. Alec Burks, James Wiseman, Killian Hayes, Hamidou Diallo, Isaiah Livers, Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Stewart, Corey Joseph, and then we have RJ Hampton as well. Of those 9 guys, do you think all of them make it into your player pool? And are there any that you're intentionally trying to limit?
So I'm not playing 150 lineups tonight. So I would think I probably don't get to the Corey Joseph, RJ Hampton spot. You could, if you're playing 150, like I think there's a decent chance that one of those guys plays enough minutes to matter here. I saw Josh mention it in chat as well, that he has no idea if or how many minutes Corey Joseph plays, but that it's not like it would be shocking if he got 22 or 24 off the bench. Same thing for RJ Hampton. You also have Rodney McGruder, though, that can soak up some minutes. But when you look at the last game the Pistons played, you got 15 combined minutes from Corey Joseph and RJ Hampton. McGruder didn't play at all, but there's 61 minutes available from that game. Boyan played 29. Ivy played 32, and those minutes are all available now for some combination of McGruder, Joseph, Hampton to soak up, along with, Diallo probably playing a few more minutes. Burks probably playing a few more minutes. Burks only played 17 in that game. Diallo played 19. So it's likely you get more playing time from each of them as well. But the point being that there are minutes available, and we don't really know how this rotation is going to go. They could spread it out where all of Joseph, Hampton, McGruder end up being pretty much useless. But if they sort of choose one or two of those guys and give them the bulk of the minutes, making the ninth guy sort of like not, as giving the ninth guy not as many minutes, then you could get value from Joseph or Hampton. But I think those two are pretty, like, very, very risky. Livers at 3,200, I expect that he'll start. If he comes off the bench, I certainly like him less, but I assume he's going to start. He's not a very good point per minute guy, which is the difference between him and Diallo, him and Burks. Like Livers may start, and Burks and Diallo could both come off the bench, but I would still prefer Diallo and Burks just because they both get you around a fantasy point per minute, where Isaiah Livers, 268 minutes without Ivy, Cunningham, or Bogdanovich this year, has still only put up 0.58 DraftKings points per minute. So you're kind of at a point where, like, on average, for every minute Livers plays, it's almost at every minute Burks or Diallo play, you need 2 minutes from Livers. Like, it's almost that big of a difference. So he's viable because the minutes should be there. He's in a good matchup. He's really cheap, but you can't feel as good about him as you can Diallo and Burks just because they are such better point per minute guys.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Okay, so not a ton of interest in RJ Hampton or Corey Joseph unless you are playing 150, but otherwise, I mean, those top 7 Pistons all certainly in play in the player pool. Anybody else you want to, or anything else you want to say about the Pistons before we move to the other side of the game?
Just to reiterate, because I saw Sean V say it, but I've seen other people saying it too. Killian Hayes is bad at basketball for sure. He's not a bad fantasy guy. Like he's at over a fantasy point per minute without these guys on the floor, despite being horrible at shooting. To me, that's actually a positive. Like, yeah, it's not going to like feel great having, Killian Hayes a lot, but I feel a lot better about a guy that averages a fantasy point per minute on horrible shooting stats than somebody where it's like, oh, well, he's averaging a point per minute, but he's been, shooting 70%. So that's going to come down. His production really has nowhere to go but up.
Right. It's like Kevin Love the other night where Kevin Love put up 20 fantasy points. His first night starting for the Heat, put up 20 fantasy points. And it was like he lost an entire rotation to a blowout and didn't make a single basket. So it was like, okay, he put up 20 fantasy points and he has nowhere to go but up. It's kind of a similar idea just in general with players who aren't great at scoring, but like every player in the NBA has the ability to spike a game where they, just get a couple extra buckets. So yeah, it's definitely nowhere to go but up. Does the ownership scare you at all? Like, do you see? So we're seeing on Killian Hayes 55% ownership. Okay, here let me rephrase this. Do you think any of these Pistons are lock buttons?
I mean, I'll never call anybody a lock. I think that they are very, very good chalk, and the reason is that I don't know where else you would go. Like you'll see people all the time say stuff like, "Oh, he's X% owned. I can't play him." You need to then figure out what your alternative is that's going to give you lineups with a similar chance of success as the lineups that are playing Killian Hayes. And that's kind of the problem I run into. And it's the same problem with Burks and with, Diallo and Weissman. There's not a lot of other point per minute 4K guys, give or take, that have a chance at playing upper 20s minutes against the Charlotte Hornets. Like it's just such a good spot. Probably all four of them won't smash, but like it's really hard to imagine that none of them do. And this is where the boom bust tool is helpful as well. Like you have, these guys are all going quote unquote over owned, but Alec Burks, 68% ownership, 65% optimal percentage. Hayes, 55% ownership, 46% optimal percentage. Spots like that, their ownership's higher than their optimal percentage, but it's still telling you that they're in the optimal lineup, in Hayes' case, close to 50% of the time, in Burks' case, close to 2/3 of the time. You're probably going to find more profitable spots to pivot away from chalk than the guys that are showing up in optimals 50% of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so I like to make the distinction with NBA too, and it might not be true on a 4-game slate, but like typically you don't need the optimal lineup for NBA. Like like with NBA Showdown, I really focus on the optimal lineup percentage for each player, and I talk about that a lot with with NFL Showdown. With NBA, you can also just, like the boom percentage is just as relevant to look at. So I kind of like to balance look at the boom odds, look at the optimal odds, because even if Killian Hayes isn't optimal, he's optimal 48% of the time, he's booming 51% of the time. Looks like a solid play. But I did just see, and I want to see if this changes your opinion at all. Sean V says that it's actually the worst chalk he's ever seen. Does that change your opinion at all? Are you going to get off of these Pistons because Sean V says they're the
I think I like them more.
Okay, yeah, I think sorry, Sean V, you're not going to sway me away from the Pistons. Good luck with your fade tonight. He might just be talking about Killian Hayes, in which case, sure, Killian Hayes could fail. All right, any further thoughts on the Pistons, or should we jump to the other side?
I never want to talk about the Pistons this much again.
Jordan thought we were going to have trouble filling up 4 games in an hour, and we've just done one of the teams from the first game, and we're halfway through the show. So we'll jump to the other side of the team, and then that was the most important spot to talk about. So don't worry, guys, we'll get through it. But we will jump to the other side of this game.
Isaiah Stewart's out.
Okay. Well, that's
back to the Pistons.
Yeah, right. All right, we'll do the Hornets, and then we'll go back to the Pistons, see what our projections say. We'll give you a projection update, ownership projection update, all of that with this new news. Are we glad that we got this news now, or do we want to I kind of would prefer this just be the live before locks problem, that we could just be done with the Pistons. But
yeah, I'm like, we were always going to get it before. Actually, I will say I'm glad we got it now, because the other day the Pistons had like 2 questionable players and just didn't announce anything until 5 minutes before the game. So I will take having to just talk about it an hour and a half in advance.
All right, cool. Well, let's wait for the projections to update, just because it'll be easier to talk about once we have some projections update and stuff. So let's do Charlotte first, and then we'll just briefly touch back on the Pistons with the new no Isaiah Stewart. All right, so Charlotte, we've got LaMelo looks like one of the best plays on the board just in terms of raw projection. And Greg and I were talking about it earlier. So we're only projecting LaMelo for just over 37 minutes in this game. He just played a back-to-back in which he played 40 minutes in each of them. What even is a reasonable minutes projection for LaMelo Ball? Do you think we're doing it right by setting it at 37 there?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like, I think you could even go to 38. It's just, as long as he doesn't get in foul trouble and the game's relatively competitive, you're just getting huge minutes from him. And it's been a pretty consistent thing. So I think projecting, around 37 minutes makes plenty of sense, and it makes him look really, really good.
Do you worry about it that they're just going to someday realize that they're not playing for anything and just like suddenly cut LaMelo Ball's minutes in half? Like at some point, right? They've got to stop. You would think that they need to cut back on some of their like assets for the future. Do you have any concerns there?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but also I think it's kind of like we've seen with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year in OKC, and granted, OKC's actually been a decent team overall, but like, I think that there's probably something to keeping the star players on these losing teams at least somewhat engaged. Like, unless you're going to just sit them out for the rest of the year, I would think LaMelo wants to just go out there and ball when he's active, and being like, hey, dude, you're going to play 26 minutes today is a lot more likely to get a fuck off, get me out of here, than like, hey, we're going to be really bad, but you can go play 38 minutes, So like, that's kind of my assumption. I think it's more likely you see guys start, like maybe LaMelo gets shut down in March or something, more so than that they start limiting him, just because I think that's a pretty easy way to just piss him off.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just kind of like, that's completely educational guessing. It's just like,
sure. Yeah.
It kind of just makes sense to me, like if either like, let me just go party and not care at all about basketball for the rest of the season, or let me go play NBA basketball. Like, don't make me kind of just be right in the middle where I have to be prepared and go play, but then also I'm not playing like I should be.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. And I mean, we're not in the locker room. We don't really know what the reason is behind this, but I think that's as good of a reasoning as any of us are going to give on a matter that we don't really know about. All right, so Charlotte, I'm just going to open it up to you since we did the first game or the first team in depth. Now we got to move on a little bit quicker. Tell me who you like from Charlotte. Anybody? How many of these players are in your player pool? Anybody who's a huge priority for you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to dig quite as deep into Charlotte as you do Detroit, but LaMelo looks great. Obviously, we just touched on that. He is somebody that's a little bit easier to pivot away from than these cheap Detroit pieces. That's just because, you do have Tatum, you do have Embiid that are similar, very, very high ceiling guys, but they are also getting ownership as well. So it's not a very easy spot, where I'm not expecting to have a bunch of lineups where I just don't play any of those guys, and they're all getting ownership. So LaMelo certainly looks good as well. Terry Rozier at 6,800 looks fine. Mark Williams, Gordon Hayward both look fine as well. I wouldn't call those guys priorities, but they are still in a good matchup. They should get plenty of minutes. Mark Williams, we know is a high upside guy, probably playing around 28 minutes, 29 minutes if he avoids foul trouble. One interesting tournament piece, though, to offset ownership in some lineups is Nick Richards. You and I kind of talked about it earlier, the negative correlation when players don't play alongside each other. Richards is about a fantasy point per minute guy. He's 3,800. From a projection standpoint, he's going to play 18 to 20 minutes on average. But every minute that Mark Williams is in foul trouble for, or the Hornets second unit's playing well and gets extra minutes, or whatever the case may be, every minute Mark Williams isn't on the floor, Nick Richards most likely will be. And so he's somebody that gives you a higher ceiling than his median projection suggests. And because most people are building lineups off median projections and not really accounting for range of outcomes all that much, that's why you're only getting like 2% ownership coming into Nick Richards. Very low probability play, but within a given lineup, we talk a lot about ownership mattering within a lineup, not necessarily specific players. If you have Nick Richards in a lineup and you have, maybe one other low owned guy in there, you don't really have to worry too much anymore about the ownership coming into these other popular plays. So Nick Richards is one pretty high upside, value option that you can use to offset some ownership.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea. And am I understanding correctly that you would not play Nick Richards with Mark Williams, or
I would not play Nick Richards with Mark Williams?
Okay.
I also wouldn't play a ton of Nick Richards either. Like, I want to emphasize that it's still a low probability play. You're better off, like, if you think of your lineup sort of as a portfolio, you're going to go through your lineups and you're going to find, within each lineup, there's one or two guys where it's like, oh, that's probably not going to work out. But if it does, he's low owned and it's really good. Like, Nick Richards is that kind of guy. You're not trying to just grab one of them and like play him in every lineup and be like, oh, if this is Nick Richards night, I'm good, because that's a very easy way to just lose a large percentage of your investment.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Charlotte?
No.
And then let's do 30 seconds, maybe a minute, talk about, has anything drastically changed? Well, let me just see if we have Isaiah Stewart out yet. We still have Isaiah Stewart in the projections, so we'll save it. We'll save going back to Detroit.
I'll just say, pay attention to the starting lineup. I'm curious what it's going to be now. You could get Bagley and Weissman together, in which case they both look really good. You could get, I already assumed Livers was going to start. Now maybe you get Burke starting or you get Diallo starting. Whoever starts, like, you can feel better about their minutes, obviously.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so we have covered this game pretty thoroughly. So next up, we will do Miami at Philly. But first, Jordan, can you pull up the lineup generator? We just want to look at the lineup generator really quickly. Don't know if you have had a chance to get that set up yet, but we just wanted to show you guys our lineup generator because, if you just want to make some good lineups, play some good lineups without having to put a lot of thought into it, if you don't have a ton of time, we have a lineup generator which actually has gone through tons and tons of different lineups, found the lineups that our simulations have found to be the most positive EV lineups, and we're only offering those with the lineup generator. So these are all lineups that have been predetermined to be plus EV lineups. It's really an awesome thing that we've got going on, and it is 50% off for your first week. If you want to sign up for the lineup generator, then it's $8.95 a week after that. So take advantage of that now. I believe, yes, click the link in the description or the pinned comment if you want to sign up for lineup generator. It really is a great way to just, we've got some of the best players in the business have already made some lineups for you. People are always wanting lineups from like Alex Shanzon. You've got lineups, Alex Shanzon, Steve, like these guys have made these lineups for us. So worth checking out lineup generator. It looks like we do have it pulled up. So let's take a look at just a couple of these lineups real quick. Let me see if I can read this. So let's look at we're generating new lineups now. Now, Jordan, are these for large field GPP? I assume so. Okay. All right. Okay. So the first lineup that we're looking at, we've got Terry Rozier, Alec Burks, Hamidou Diallo. So how many Detroit guys? So we've got three Detroit players in this one, it looks like, which I like that. So I generally prefer to keep it down to 3 or 4 from any team. So this one, we've got just 3 from Detroit. We've also got Embiid in there for the pay up option. We've got Terry Rozier in the mid range. How do you feel about this? Are you looking at the lineup right now, Adam?
I am now.
Okay.
We'll be in a second.
Okay. So we're looking at Killian Hayes, Terry Rozier, Hamidou Diallo, James Wiseman. Embiid is the pay up. Alec Burks in there as well. And then we've got another Tatum, another pay up option as well. So
okay.
Yeah. And JVal too. Wow.
Yeah, I like it. It projects well. I haven't checked Valanciunas' most recent ownership, but as of this morning, he was one of my favorite tournament plays. So I like that.
Yeah, it looks like on this screen, it looks like 15% if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah, that's where he was this morning, and I think that's insane.
Yeah, that's really interesting because JVal's minutes seem to be trending up, and he's just going to be a great play if he does get to 30 minutes or so. Yeah. So yeah, I like this lineup quite a bit. Let's go through just one more.
I mean, it's a super popular lineup, but it projects really well.
That's the tough thing about today is that we're not going to find any like 3% owned players who are actually good plays on a 4-game slate. I mean, I guess Nick Richards is one example of, I bet he would show up in some of these lineups, but you're not going to find too many of those here. But yeah, Marcus Smart, this one, we've got no Jaylen Brown. So we'll talk about that game later, but Marcus Smart gets a little bump, a little positive leverage in the tools at just 11% ownership, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward. And then again, we've got Wiseman, Bagley, Burks, and then Tatum and Harden as the pay up options. To me, this looks like, I mean, I'm not questioning the tools. I think that the tools say this is a good lineup. I believe it. It looks like a good lineup to me. Do you have any problems with that, Adam?
No, it looks good to me as well. Gives up a little bit in the way of projection, but also saved, I think it was like 100 points in ownership. So
yeah. So if you don't have time to spend 2 hours every day, or if there are certain days where you don't have time to spend 2 hours really building your own lineups, or if you just want to mix in some lineups that professional players have found to be positive EV, I would definitely recommend checking out the lineup generator because $9 a week and you're getting some of the best lineups that can be built according to our sim. So definitely check that out. But we are going to move on to the second game of the night, Miami at Philly, with 20 minutes left. We're on our second game of the night. So we will start going faster. We'll start on the Miami side. Adam, how do you feel about this Miami team? Anybody stand out to you as a great play here? Kevin Love up at 5,400 now, no longer the freebie that he was for a while. We've got Tyler Herro questionable. Oh no, sorry, he's been upgraded to available is the latest. I did not see that. So that was just before the show. Tyler Herro is available tonight. So we're not going to get any incredible value from the Heat, but any priorities for you, or anybody who's in your player pool, and any priorities?
Yeah, so no priorities at all. This is a pretty unappealing team from a fantasy standpoint. Should be a fun game, but I will say I think Miami is a very interesting tournament team. There's not one particular player, but Adebayo, Hero, Butler, Love in particular. These are the only. They're all pulling between 2 and 9% ownership on DraftKings. Nobody else is getting any at all. But the reason I think that they're kind of interesting is, like you were just saying when you're going over the lineup builder, it's really, really difficult on this slate to find guys that are low owned and don't totally suck. Miami does give you that. They suck in terms of point per dollar projection on this slate because you have so much good cheap value, like we just talked about, and then you have it's going to just open up salary for you. So you're often going to be able to say like, oh, well, I can play Tyler Hero, or it's not really that tough for me to just play LaMelo instead, or I can play Jimmy Butler, or I could just play Jason Tatum. But that makes it so like people aren't going to play these guys. And there is still a pretty good chance that like one guy from Miami has a big game. From a median standpoint, none of them look very good, but you have to keep in mind that within any individual game, you're going to get your Jimmy Butler games, you're going to get your Tyler Hero games. So there is still upside for these guys, and they're all single digit owned. It's not going to be, you're not going to feel too bad if you look at your lineup and like your contrarian piece, instead of being Nick Richards, maybe is like Tyler Hero. So that's, that kind of makes sense to me. Like we had 25% ownership coming into Terry Rozier at 6,800. If you can find $900 and make that Tyler Hero at 2% in a lineup that needs to save ownership, that's going to make a lot of sense. Similar stuff with like Hayward, going to Butler or something like that. So I do think Miami is an interesting way to offset ownership in your lineup, but there's not one guy from Miami that I think actually looks good.
Yeah, I think that is the perfect explanation here, because Jimmy Butler. Do I want to play Jimmy Butler against Philly at 8,800? No, but then I look at 4.6% ownership. Suddenly he's interesting. Same thing, right. Tyler Hero, 2.6% ownership. That's really interesting. Bam, to some extent, under 10%. Like you just don't have many great plays at under 10% ownership. And all of these guys, when you factor in the ownership, suddenly look very interesting. So yeah, I think that was a good explanation of the Heat. Anybody else that you want to mention for the Heat?
No, I think it's really those four guys.
Okay, and you, Kevin Love, I assume, was included among those.
Yeah, yeah. Bam, Hero, Butler, Love, I think are the guys that I would use as tournament plays. I don't really see how I can get to anything else. Like Gabe Vincent's up to 4,800, Martin's at 4,200, Oladipo's back and at 4,700, Strus at 49. So like it's just hard to find the minutes for those guys. If I were going to play the back, like Cody Zeller's going to be that backup center guy here at 3,200. But like if I'm going that route, I would rather go Nick Richards or Billy Hernangomez, or even Mo Wagner on Orlando. Like for a 4-game slate, there's still not really a shortage on the low probability backup center plays. And so it's really those four guys: Bam, Hero, Love, Butler, and then I kind of forget the rest of this team exists.
Okay. All right. So I think we've covered Miami. We can jump right to the other side of this game. The Sixers looking a little bit better just in terms of their value on the slate. We've got some, decent pay up options, some Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, nice mid-range options. DeAnthony Melton looks like an okay value option. How are you feeling about the Sixers tonight? Who's making it into your player pool, and who would you call a priority, if anybody?
Embiid, I think, is the closest thing to a priority. He's pulling 38% ownership right now, 33% chance of being optimal. 11K center, clearly looks really good. So like that, I guess, makes you a priority, but it also makes him like, I don't know, the 10th highest owned guy on the slate. So like he looks really good. Harden would be the second guy here, just because, again, like when you think about how your lineups are being built, even if you're not building by hand, like you're using optimizers, which obviously I recommend, or a lineup generator or whatever. If you think about how a lineup's actually put together, you're typically starting like with value, and then you are trying to round it out with raw points. And so the guys like Harden and Embiid, while they aren't as good of a point per dollar value, they're some of the best options in terms of raw points. You have Harden coming off of a game where he played 41.5 minutes. He's back to playing big minutes after a brief stretch where he was playing like 34, 35 a night. You can typically expect, 37, 38 from him at least. He's 9,800. Embiid, we know, is a top candidate to be the highest scorer on the slate. So both of those guys look really good. There's nothing else that stands out, though. Harris, Maxey, Melton, all playable, but, all guys that I wouldn't really expect to show up very frequently, because you just don't need their value that much on this slate. It's more so within a given lineup, if you want to turn Killian Hayes into Tyrese Maxey for 600 more and hope that Maxey wins out, sure. The ownership makes it worth it in that Hayes isn't a 10-1 or 11-1 favorite to beat Tyrese Maxey ever. But in most lineups, you're going to just prefer having the extra projected points from Hayes. Same kind of thing with like DeAnthony Melton. He's 3% owned. Burks is 68% owned. If you laid me 20 whatever to 1 odds, I'm taking Melton every time. But DFS lineups don't really work that way. But within a given lineup, if you need to turn like Burks or Diallo into Melton just to save ownership in that lineup, that's fine. But it's just not going to happen all that often.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. DeAnthony Melton, again, he's 5x value, but like we have so much good value on the site that it's hard to really prioritize DeAnthony Melton at 5x when we've got other players that are 7x, and we have several of them. So yeah, hard to prioritize, but definitely going to be contrarian and still has some upside there. All right, anything else that you want to say about the Sixers before we move on?
Nope. I think the 2 pay up guys are the top plays. Maxey, Melton, Harris are your just secondary plays. I would say Harris and Maxey certainly better than Melton, but all 3 of those guys secondary, and then kind of like Charlotte, everything else just falls off of the cliff.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, then we will move on. But first, let me remind you guys that this show is sponsored by No House Advantage, which is the only site that has everything. It has props. It has GPPs. You can play against the house. There's a lot that you can play at No House Advantage. It's a really fun way to play. They've got the Pick'em contest, which we should do an overlay check there. I mean, we're a little bit short on time, but I just want to check real quick because we have had overlay consistently on No House Advantage. Jordan, if you have it up, I'm pulling it up right now. So if you don't, I'm curious what the overlay number is. Okay, it's 51% full with a little bit over an hour left. Pretty likely to see some overlay in that pick'em contest. One thing that I like to do and like to advise is, you look at it close to lock, and we have optimal lineups at Stokastic. We've got them for free on the site, so it's not behind a paywall. You can find our No House Advantage projections and optimal lineups for that pick'em contest, and oftentimes there is overlay. But then also they've got great versus the house contest where you can choose up to 5 picks. You choose the over and under. They have prop lines for players. You choose the over and under on those prop lines. You can choose up to 5 and up to 21x your entry fee. So really fun to play on No House Advantage. And of course, you can use our Stokastic projections and optimal lineups there. So check that out. Adam, all right, let's move on and let's talk about the next game. Boston at New York. We know Jaylen Brown is out for this one. Last I saw, Derek White was probable to play, so I think Jaylen Brown's the only real important piece missing here. Let's talk about the Celtics. Who's making it into your player pool, and who do you see as a priority here, if anyone?
Tatum clearly looks like a priority here. 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy without Jaylen Brown this year. Going to play big minutes, always does. He's only 10,200, and he has the best positional eligibility out of the 3 pay up options. Embiid center only, LaMelo point guard only. Here you get both forward spots for Tatum. So he's pulling 44% ownership, actually projected to be a little bit under owned, 46% chance of being optimal. So love getting to him. He is a little bit lower in raw ownership than LaMelo, which is nice as well. Derek White looks like the second option here. I like him at 5,500. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy without Brown on the floor. Even if you put Jason Tatum out there, he's still just shy of a fantasy point per minute, and he's likely to play a lot of minutes here. One thing I will point out, though, and again, I like Derek White, so this shouldn't be interpreted as like I don't think Derek White's a good play. I don't think Derek White is nearly 3 times as good a play as Marcus Smart at the same price tag on DraftKings. Smart does project about 1.5 points, 2 points behind Derek White, but I expect similar playing time. Smart is like 500ths to a tenth of a fantasy point per minute worse than Derek White on average. White has shooting guard eligibility, so that's going to make him show up in lineups a bit more. But that being said, we have White with about a 28% chance of being optimal, about 15% for Smart. So not quite double the optimal percentage for White, and that's going to factor in the shooting guard eligibility. But you're getting like 2.5 to 2.6 times the ownership coming to White. So I think this is a spot where you're certainly going to want to play some Derek White. But if you play a bit more Marcus Smart at the expense of Derek White, I think that's one kind of interesting way to approach Boston in tournaments, just because these two are so similar and they're not projected. The field isn't projected to give Smart enough credit here while probably giving White a little bit too much. So I like both of those guys. I like White more than Smart, but from an ownership standpoint, I do like the idea of getting Smart at White's expense a little bit.
Yeah, this was as I was writing my article earlier, I was noticing this is where you're getting a lot of the like positive leverage on mid-range plays is from the Celtics. That's a good call out. Smart being so much lower owned than Derek White, but then we've also got Malcolm Brogdon in there.
Yeah.
He's got 5x value at 5,700. Even Robert Williams looks like a pretty solid value, 5.2x, projecting for about 26 and a half fantasy points at 5,100. And he's a guy that I always like to, I probably play him more than I should because I think of Robert Williams as a guy who just has the ability to put up 40 and people don't like playing him. So I tend to play probably more Robert Williams than I should, but always kind of interesting. Grant Williams, another guy who we talked about these value plays who would look good on another slate. He's at 5.4x his point per dollar play for Grant Williams. But again, on this slate, do you think you're going to get to any Grant Williams? Or do you think you would? How much do you get to in a 150 set?
Yeah, so I mean, Grant Williams, I think, is just another one where you sort of just use him as a way in an individual lineup. Like, say you have, three of those popular Pistons, you have LaMelo, you have Embiid, and it's just like, all right, I don't also want, Diallo's 50% ownership. So I'm just going to make that Grant Williams. I think that's the role Grant Williams has on this slate. You're not expecting him to win that often, but when he does, it can, really be what separates your lineup in large field tournaments. So I think he's a secondary play. He's a way to get contrarian. I'm with you on Robert Williams, pulling 10% ownership. I think that he looks good. Like, he's a good point per minute guy. He's on average going to give you 27, 28 minutes, but certainly could play more. He's very good at getting defensive stats, which those are unpredictable on a game by game basis, which is really nice in large field tournaments because typically what happens is the price is going to stay low enough because he's not consistently going to get a bunch of blocks and steals, but then you're going to get those games where he does just run into, 7, 8, 9 blocks plus steals and just goes absolutely nuts. So, he's not a high usage guy. And that's typically, I think, what people think of when they think of ceilings. But when you get these guys that can rack up defensive stats, that gives them a really high ceiling as well. So I do like him as a contrarian play. And Malcolm Brogdon also, you mentioned him. He's another one with really volatile playing time. He's 5,700, so he's $200 more than White and Smart, only pulling 7% ownership. If he plays 20 minutes, clearly you're not going to, want $5,700 Malcolm Brogdon. But if you get the game where he goes out there and plays 30, this is somebody that gives you 1.1 to 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. He's a very, very good point per minute guy, and not having Jaylen Brown should help his production as well. So I love the upside that he gives you at very low ownership.
Yep, for sure. So I want to touch on this super chat really quick, and we do have an projection update for the Pistons, and they look, as we would expect, even better than they did earlier. They are now our top 6 point per dollar plays, and 7 of our top 8 are all Pistons, with Guillermo Hernan-Gomez jumping in there in the mix. But 7 of our top 8 value plays are Pistons. But we got a super chat from Josh G. He says, I'm getting 4 Pistons in 80% of my 150 and some with 5. Is this an issue? Can't seem to get off it. Thanks for any input. How do you feel about that, Adam?
So I'm going to start with the caveat that I haven't built my lineups yet. So I can't compare this to what mine are looking like. I don't hate it though. It kind of would depend what the rest of those lineups look like. But if you're, because the problem that I think you'd run into, it also depends who the Pistons are. But yeah. I think the problem you're going to run into is, or that you could potentially run into, is that's allocating a lot of ownership, most likely, if you're going with 4 or 5 Pistons. But then if you're able to round it out with contrarian plays and still end up with a lineup that grades out well in that regard, I don't think it's a big issue. I mean, you're talking about a team that I believe right now, if Josh is correct, so 50-50, has 9 active players. Their G League guys are currently listed as out. So if that holds and they don't recall these guys, there have to be minutes here. And for the most part, 5 of these guys are actually productive point per minute guys as well. Hampton is okay. Liver sucks. Joseph's okay. Magruder sucks. But Hayes, Bagley, Weissman, Burks, Diallo, they're all solid point per minute guys too. So you are getting a situation, you're going to get this more and more as the year goes on, where teams have to play these guys a lot of minutes and they actually do produce. And it's still a great matchup. So long way of saying I don't hate it as long as the rest of your lineups are good. As long as you're not having an ownership issue, I don't mind it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And according to, so we have 9 Pistons with projections today. So Josh might be right about the 9 active Pistons thing. And the most expensive of those 9 is 4,600. So typically, as I said, I usually set my cap on a team at 3 players. On a 4-game slate, I'm more likely to do 4. I think that I'm still going to set mine at 4 today, but I agree with you. Like that, you might be able to make better lineups with 5, just if you can fit 5 Pistons and then just like 3 studs in there. Maybe it makes sense, but I'm probably going to set my cap at 4. Take that for what it's worth. Doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily.
I think that's fine. Like it's very borderline, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So just wanted to jump back in and talk briefly about the Pistons, but let's go on to the Knicks. Any priorities for you from the Knicks, and who is going to make it into your player pool?
Randall's the closest thing to a priority. He's not a priority in that, he's, I don't know, probably the 15th highest owned guy on the slate or something, but 21% ownership, 23% chance of being optimal. Not a great matchup, but a very favorable price tag at 9,300. You know that you're typically going to get a lot of minutes from him. He's a very productive player. So certainly happy to get to Randall. And I guess one thing to keep in mind too, like there's not a lot of good, like low owned plays, but everything's relative. The flip side of ownership that I feel like never gets talked about. Everybody focuses on like, this player's X% owned, this player's X% owned. If you play a lineup that doesn't have like Alec Burks and Killian Hayes, for example, 68 and like 65% of the field has Burks and 60% has Hayes, whatever it may be, you're still being somewhat contrarian by simply not having them. So when you get to somebody like Julius Randle that's 20% owned, yes, that's a relatively high number, but in the context of the slate, it's not that high. So he is still a relatively contrarian piece, and he does give you a really high ceiling. Jalen Brunson at 8% looks good as well. Mitchell Robinson is in that Robert Williams tier for me at center, where he's not as good a point per minute guy, but he gives you a lot of block upside. We've seen 28 minutes from him in the last couple of games, and it looks like he probably would have played more than 30 last game had it been competitive. He's only pulling 3% ownership. I think that's an interesting way to be different in a tournament lineup here or there. Emmanuel quickly at 5K certainly has some upside as well, but I think Randall's the closest thing to a priority. Brunson and Robinson probably the next 2 spots I'd want to get to.
Okay, you said RJ Barrett was the other that you mentioned there as somebody who you'd play in some lineups potentially.
Yeah, so I'd say quickly, but I think like Barrett and Hart are kind of the same thing. Barrett, quickly, Hart, they're all just like cheap enough where if they play 32 to 34 minutes, they would look good, but you're not expecting Hart or quickly to get there very often. And Barrett, has seen his playing time cut into by Hart and quickly as well. So you can't really feel confident in any of them, but there is a path if they're playing well that they're probably just going to stay on the floor, which is great for DFS.
Okay. We still have one more game to get to with 2 minutes left. However, Eric and Greg will have an hour and a half for their show. So I'm sure they're not going to be upset if we go just like a couple minutes over to cover it. So we will move on to the Orlando versus the Pelicans game. But let me just tell you guys that you should check out NBA Bet Pro if you are into betting. Stokastic's top ranked DFS pros have made millions of dollars in DFS using Stokastic's NBA DFS projections. And now they're using them for making bets as well. With this data, users can apply advanced sports analytics to player props and get an edge on the sports books. These NBA projections are directly managed by Stokastic's team of established experts, including Alex Baker, Sean Zahn, and Steve Buzzard, and they're updated constantly throughout the day. It really is just a great product if you are able to bet in your state. We have a 7-day free trial for new users, and then after that, it's $29.95 per week or $99.95 per month. Get a free trial. I believe we have a link in the description for the free trial for NBA Bet Pro. So definitely check that out because, again, some of the best players in the business are doing the projections for you. You're going to find a great edge over the field by using NBA Bet Pro. All right. Not the field, I guess on the books. You're not playing against the field there. All right. Let's move on to Orlando at the Pelicans. Adam, we'll start with the Orlando side of things. Any priorities for you from the Magic and anybody making it into your player pool?
No priorities, but if Detroit weren't on the slate, Orlando would be the team getting like 10+% ownership going to 8 guys. Because Detroit's on the slate, it knocks down the ownership everywhere on Orlando. So no true priorities, but a lot of guys you can get to try and be different. Wendell Carter Jr., Paolo Banchero, Markelle Fultz, all pulling like 10 to 15% ownership. I think they are the top guys here. I'd probably get to Banchero first because he is forward eligible. We have a lot of centers we like. We have a lot of guards. We don't have as many forwards. Markelle Fultz at 6,200 playing pretty big minutes. Certainly looks good. Wendell Carter played 18 minutes last game. Don't let that dissuade you. He picked up 3 fouls in his first 6 minutes. Just a fluky game. Typically, you're going to get around 30. So any of those guys look fine. And again, even though the ownership isn't, they're not 3% owned, they're relatively low owned in the context of this slate. Mo Wagner, 3,300 center only. Wouldn't play him with Wendell Carter Jr., but he is likely to see more minutes if you get Carter foul trouble, and he is a good point per minute guy. So kind of like Nick Richards, I don't mind him in tournament lineups here or there. Bol at 3,100 should give you 17 or 18 minutes with no Jonathan Isaac. He's another, low priority, low probability play, but a way you can get different, and still maintain some upside. Same goes for Jalen Suggs. So I think really any of Carter, Banchero, Fultz, both Wagner's, Bol, Suggs are playable. I would say Carter, Banchero, Fultz are the ones that I would get to first.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the Magic, or do we just cover it in full?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just a bunch of secondary plays. Most of them look pretty similar to each other.
Okay. And then we'll jump to the other side of the game, which is the Pelicans. Guillermo Hernangomez, again, looks like one of our best point per dollar plays on the entire slate. We've got him at under 19 minutes, but still almost 23 fantasy points at 3,600. Obviously can spike an upside if J-Val, doesn't, if he only plays 24 minutes, we can get an upside from Guillermo Hernangomez, but I'll open it up to you. So any priorities for you from the Pelicans, and who's making it into your player pool?
So Ingram is the only guy pulling a ton of ownership here, and I think that's deserved. He's forward eligible, which is great. 8K. Looks really good. Obviously sees a bump in usage without Zion, and Zion's still out. The guy that is really interesting to me here is Joval at 6,400, pulling 15% ownership, but he's averaged 24 minutes per game this year in games that Larry Nance has been active. He's averaged 28 minutes per game in games without Larry Nance. No Larry Nance tonight. We've seen increased playing time recently anyway, as you alluded to earlier. Played about 29 minutes in the last game that Nance played. Played 32 last game and could have played more had it not been for garbage time. And this is someone that produces about 1.25 DraftKings points per minute. So I have a really hard time not loving Joval here. I don't think right now we have similar ownership projected for him and Wendell Carter. To me, Joval is the clear priority between those two. I like Carter, but I love getting to Joval here. And then Guillermo Hernangomez also not pulling that much ownership. This is another really close spot for me. Hernangomez and Joval are not going to play minutes alongside each other, but they're both such good point per minute guys that I don't know if I hate playing them together. If Joval plays 28 minutes and Hernangomez plays 20, there's a lot of times that Hernangomez and Joval, that Joval is one of the best mid-range plays and Hernangomez is one of the best values. So even though I don't expect them to play alongside each other, I don't necessarily mind playing them together. The biggest risk factor is just that Jackson Hayes emerges and that you end up with a 3-center rotation, which sucks for everybody involved. But the ceiling is just so high if they go with a 2-man rotation like we saw last game after Nance was hurt, and that you just get those backup center minutes for Hernangomez. They both end up looking really good. CJ McCollum and Josh Richardson look fine as well, but Ingram and then the two centers are really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a good call because currently we have J-Val and Hernangomez pulling 46 minutes is what we're allotting them in total, or just under 47. So not even giving them quite the full 48. And we're still getting Hernangomez a 6.3x value, J-Val at a 5.2x value. And obviously both have the ability to spike or bigger upside. So this is basically splitting their minutes, and they both look like, good plays without, giving anybody kind of outlier in terms of minutes. So certainly both could get there in the same lineup. Anything else that you want to say about the Pelicans or the slate before we hand it over to Live Before Lock?
No, that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Adam, for all of your insights. As always, I have not asked you, I think I've only asked you once to hit that like button. So I'll ask you one more time. Please do hit that like button if you haven't already. Helps us out a lot. And stick around because NBA Live Before Lock coming up next with Eric and Greg. See you later. Good luck.
Yo, it's that time of week again where we are inducting you fine people into the Stokastic Hall of Fame, doing all the bragging for you so you don't have to do it yourself, to all these thousands of people watching right now. And of course, giving out free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, every single sport for the entire month, $120 value right here on the Hall of Fame. And all you got to do to get involved, download the avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. And if you're EMAC, download the new one on Yahoo, man. Come on now. And use it wherever you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, No House Advantage, Prize Picks. Doesn't matter where it is. Use it. And when you win, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, or just have a big hit and you want to show it off, tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF. Get your free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and get into the Hall of Fame. We kick it off this week with Avi Man, Avi's had a couple nice wins recently. Honest Avi with $10,000. A very simple thanks, fellas, to Stokastic Hall of Fame. Huge win, man. Congratulations in that one. And actually, matter of fact, that was, one entry. One entry. Okay. Love it. Third out of 30,000 people for Avi. And Jake Hari coming up next. Our own Jake Hari had a bunch of New Jersey 2, PP1, all that good stuff stacks last night, which put me in a good spot to get lucky with one of the few Gibson Duck stacks in my crunch. 5,000 for Jake. He just punched the ticket to the live final recently as well. Arnold took down another one. Thank you guys. $2,000 in the college basketball big jam, followed up by our own Pete McCartney, $20,000. Again, man, change that avatar, brother, but still $20K in the fantasy millionaire and NASCAR millionaire. Congrats to Pete. And EMAC, $4,000. Come on, EMAC. Celebration begins in the wee hours of the morning. That daily NBA DFS building blocks article is still somehow free. Yes, his article, a popular one, free every day at Stokastic.com. Seems like a must read, he said. A little self-promotion from EMAC, but I appreciate it. And Professor, nice little afternoon pump using the Stokastic NBA brains. Huge, $1,000. Second place in the NBA shot, followed up by Rod Dog would make a lot more sense there. Second time in the Hall of Fame. Thanks, Stokastic. $690 win. And Arnold back in the same day on this one. I had a good weekend. Thank you guys. 200, 532, 100. Some big wins for Arnold coming in twice. And Laura Cope, I don't always play PGA DFS, but when I do, I am in a twosome with Stokastic, and this is how I approach the green. Thanks. $100 win. First place in the dime. Not easy to win that one. A lot of entries. Philip Still, thank you guys for the great content. Not a big hit, but 17 in the 617 isn't bad. Thanks, Lafayette and Josh, for the insight. You're damn right, man. Congratulations. And Mitchell W. King. Always enjoyable and informative information to listen to Eric and Greg on Live Before Lock. First place in the quarter jukebox. And you guys know, doesn't matter if it's a nickel, a quarter, a dime, as long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're getting up here and you're getting the free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. John Harbison, we want to give a big shout out to the whole family. Stokastic Hall of Fame. You guys are running the show and bringing folks along with you. Third place in the high five, $500. And finally, Michael Diaz, double OT, and a field goal made from Kawhi or Fox knocked me out of first. Late swapping to 7% Isaiah Joe made the difference. Thanks for the content. 150, third place in the mini max. Remember, Stokastic.com/avatar. Download it. Use it anywhere. Tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF, and we'll see you back here next week.
They have an app too.
Yeah, it's an app.
Oh, it is just purely an app. It's not like a. Got it.
What is happening, everybody? We're back from the weekend with a less than jam-packed, actionable NBA slate here, but we got 4 games. We got some stuff to talk about. Eric and I are about to be breaking all of that down. I've got a new chair too. I'm very excited about that. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to No House Advantage. NHA is sponsoring our show today. If you guys want to sign up over there, click on the link below. Your first deposit could be matched up to $100 when you sign up using our link. And even if you're in a state that doesn't have legal sports betting, probably play props against house over at No House Advantage, where we talk about more of those later. Eric, how was your weekend?
It was good. Yesterday, I thought I was going to take down everything, and then Isaiah Joe went nuts in the fourth quarter. Towards the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter, full faded. I got everything else right, still 3x'd, but it was going to be difficult to win something without the absolute nuke. He gets benched to start the second half. Thought I was going to win all the money, but instead boss man wins all the money. Tom, JK, the CEO of here, Stokastic, saw a couple of other people. I know Shrek was in that train. There were like 7 or 8 people that tied up at the top. Good stuff. That just tells you the projections doing their job.
Yeah, very tilting weekend for myself. Friday, I was doing very well in NBA DFS, very well. And then that Kings Clippers game goes from.
So I did see you were like in 4th going into the first overtime. You know that, right?
I was in 2nd right before the end of regulation.
Okay, yeah, I saw you were in 4th when it went to overtime.
Yeah, so it goes to overtime, and the entire time I'm expecting to get fucked. Like there's just no way I'm not going to.
100%. You got fisted more than likely.
Yeah, absolutely. Which in some cases the way I like it, not on this one in particular. So I am for sure. I know I'm going to get screwed, but I'm still holding on. So like even at the end of the first overtime, I was still up like 12 grand at the time. And I'm like, there's just no way there. And then I had Paul George in my best lineup. He didn't play in double overtime. So it ended up being moderately profitable, but it should have been more profitable. And then of course on Saturday, I've got all of the nuts in MMA and the main event gets canceled as well. So like
that was my thing too. I had the absolute Rainmakers nuts in Elite and was staring down the barrel with my MVP cards because I just stacked the main event every time because I thought there were going to be a million strikes. So it sounds like what they're going to do for us is going to be all right. So I'm not going to be too appalled by it. I know we can use those UFC cards for the future ones, so those elite and rares aren't dead. Nobody cares though, so we continue over. Let's do the rest of it. But yeah, I'm sorry about Friday. My God.
And it's all right though. We're gonna come back, and already I'm getting just good vibes right away because Avi Schreier is in the YouTube chat. Left us a super chat. This is the goods. This is what you like to see. Thanks for the help on Saturday, Greg. You helped me lock up an 11.4K win on $104 in entry fees. Not bad. Not bad. Shout out to Avi.
Let's go. About that. I feel good about that. I feel bad that I didn't have any part in that. I don't do anything on Saturdays, so I take 0 credit. Congratulations, Avi. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see a follow-up to know if Eric's day off correlated with your success at all. I think that is information
people 0%.
Would like to know.
I suck.
And there we go. Look at you. Catching on fast. So also not that much, another super chat coming in, not that much injury info for today. We had Tyler Hero. He was questionable, but he's been upgraded to in. Isaiah Stewart, he is out. That's kind of the only news really here. Jordan.
PJ Washington officially out.
Yeah, PJ Washington officially out. Jordan, did the boys on the show before us get a chance to talk about the Pistons and Isaiah Stewart?
They did not actually get a chance to talk about the Pistons. So if you could talk about them for like an hour.
Well, it's good. They didn't get to talk about the Pistons on the last show per Jordan, but we'll talk about them right here.
Throw under the bus, Jordan. Go. Do it.
It's really the only injury news that we have. So we're going to talk about the impact of Isaiah Stewart being out. And then I'm also going to be curious to ask you how many, because we talk about lineup restrictions and how many players we're willing to play from each team. Overwhelmingly, the top value options on the slate are coming from Detroit. How many players from the Pistons would you be willing to have in a lineup?
I'm playing one lineup today. I just kind of decided that I was going to take it off. I'm not really liking the slate. And one of the things you got to be able to do is just kind of be honest with yourself. I look at this chalk as really, really good chalk. Alec Burks, Wiseman, Hayes. I would definitely have Hamidou Diallo. We'll see what that starting lineup ends up being here too. I could see getting to 5. 4 is probably the right answer. I think 4, hard to imagine maybe 5 working out optimally, but it feels like one of those slates where you just kind of rotate through the studs. You play 3 or 4 of these Detroit pieces, and you just do that over and over and over and over and over and over, like Marshawn Lynch. So I'm probably just, I'm sticking to this. I'm sticking to my guns. I'm playing one lineup, and I'm moving on with my day.
Absolutely soft. This is load management. Thanks. That's what we call it. This is why the old generation frowns upon us.
Thanks, pal.
Because of the. I get it though. Not for me though. I am going to be playing this because yesterday I was helping my parents move yesterday. I didn't really get the opportunity to.
I played a lot yesterday.
I would have liked to. So and then we've got a super chat in here. Where'd it go? Here it is. Our guy
this is the greatest comment ever. Green check mark. 1 Wonkaba. It's actually 2 if you're going to be accurate to what the teacher does. He's like 2. All right, so 20. He goes, no, 2. 2? What do you mean only 2? He's like, well, just imagine it's 20 Wonkabas, and then he does like the math equation.
What is that from?
It's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that movie before. Which one? The one with Johnny Depp?
I hate you. Why are you being so mean to me? The original.
Okay. Ace of Spade, DK Tears. I found it. By the way, I do know.
Oh no, Greg. Seriously? I did not want to do this. I know this happened the other day. Did it happen the other day again? I heard that. Somebody told me that.
It did. You were gonna step in for it.
Can we pull you on screen?
Absolutely not. No way.
Jordan. I'm not talking through this slate as a guy who's building out one lineup. Just talking with myself. Oh, it was Neil Orfield by himself. I would love to bring Neil back on and shoot the shit on that one. Oh, there he is. Did you hear me? Oh,
am I here?
Yeah, thank God.
All right, let me see. Is my
Eric's fault? Why is it my fault? I didn't do it.
No, this one wasn't Eric's fault. It's saying internet connection unstable, but I'm pretty sure I'm connected to the. Yeah,
more like your co-host unstable. It was a burden to myself.
Not inaccurate. We got a super chat from Ace of Spade. I was just reading that off, and then I went into the internet abyss. But his question that he had asked was TK tiers. He wants to know our top guys by each tier, and don't worry, I've got you covered here today. Do you have any input on this, Eric? Or are you going to be on?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. All right.
Tears for fears, baby. Let's go.
I wasn't sure if you were going to big time. Everyone would be like, nope, not answering that super chat like the other. Oh my God.
Okay. Why is this getting blown out of proportion from now until forever? The dude asked us a question being like, I have an average of 6,700 per player. Fill out the last 3 players in my lineup. What an absurd question. I don't know the positionality. I don't know what else you have in your lineup. What an absurd question. I do not regret not answering that.
Do you even remember the gentleman's name who left us the super chat?
No, I don't.
It was Corey Shea. See, no respect for the listeners at all. I know everybody's questions. I know what questions they're going to answer before. Like Ace of Spade here. I already had tiers lineups pre-built because I knew we were getting the super chat. Tier 1 is Joel Embiid. Tier 2 is Julius Randle. Tier 3 is Brandon Ingram. Tier 4, because I couldn't count correct.
Oh, you can count. Good for you.
Tier 5, that is Mark Williams. Tier 6, Derek White. Bang. Answered it.
Okay.
Would you like me?
No, that's all you. You want to make fun of me? You want to tell me that you want to be the big boss? You wear the big pants? Go ahead. It's all you.
I do. I've got the big chair now. Next super chat.
I'm answering. Fine. Joel Embiid, tier 1 for me. I'm going Julius Randle, tier 2. Tier 3, Jalen Brunson. Tier 4, gotta be Jonas Valanciunas for me. Tier 5, I have Gordon Hayward. And tier 6, I have Derek White, who's now starting.
There we go. So we got very rare that both of us will answer a super chat at once, but there we go. Eric contributed on that one. We appreciate it. Thanks. And also, we appreciate No House Advantage, who is the sponsor of our show today. Jordan, really quick, how are they doing on Overlay over there? Because very often some of those NHA contests, Overlay, it's a smaller 4-game slate, so could even be more opportunity for Overlay with people not as interested in 4-game NBA slates, but you should be taking advantage of any kind of Overlay out there and sign up using our link below, because that is going to get you up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. Jordan, what's the situation there on the contest fill rate?
NHA contest is currently 63% full right
63%, which if memory serves correct, that's a little bit more than 50%, but slightly less than 3/4 the way full. So still some opportunity for Overlay there. Go check out NHA and sign up using our link. Let's hit on the next super chat. This one is from our guy Avi, coming off his big GPP win. He wants to know Wiseman or Bagley on FanDuel today. Do you have a preference between Wiseman and Bagley, Eric?
Yeah, Wiseman.
I think that it's funny because I think there's more reason for the Pistons to want to give Wiseman extended minutes today. At the same time, too, they also signed Bagley to a stupid contract in the offseason.
Probably the worst contract of last year, which is saying something.
Now, with that said, it's going to depend a little bit on if it's a 1v1 and you could play either, the answer is Wiseman. But when I build out FanDuel lineups, I get more exposure to Bagley because he is power forward and center eligibility on FanDuel, and Wiseman's only center eligible. So I think individually, if it's just 1v1, who do you play at the center spot? The answer is Wiseman. I have him projected better. But once again, it just overall Bagley's a little bit easier to get to because multi-position eligibility. Does that all make sense, Eric?
Yeah, well done.
Okay, next super chat. Look at us. We're humming now. Next.
Hubba.
Next super chat is from Avi, or it was from Avi. And then here we go. Because I have a golden ticket, I have a golden twinkle in my eye. No other question. Just for Avi, just letting us know
I've got a golden chance to make my day. It's good stuff. Look at the sun.
What are some of the other songs from that?
I don't know, but my favorite is definitely "You Lose." Good day, sir. And then
I like the Oompa Loompa song.
Oh yeah, which one? What do you get when you guzzle down sweets?
I just like the Oompa Loompa doopity doo part, and I relate.
Oh, Jordan just left and then came back to that. That was ideal. That was great timing.
Hippopotamus has left us a super chat. The Hippo himself. Third, and by the way, Hippo, I think it might be time for a new YouTube handle. So you've been on Hippo for a little bit. I think it's time. I know you like to mix it up. Might be time. I know before Hippo, you were the picture on Adam's wall. I think we got to get a new bit coming soon so that Hippo could change his YouTube handle here. But third leg and Lindy in the evening. Tune in for DFS advice and get all of your love life advice too. And then tip to tip here. So not as much of a question there, but just general life advice, which I appreciate from Hippo. And he's got all the facts there.
You guys are saying, getting weird, boys. What is there to talk about on this slate? I'm very confused what you want us to say. Like, who do we think we're going to fade out of the chalk? I mean, it's really good chalk, and I just don't like this slate.
And the other thing, too, is, like, we'll talk about I know because the show before, Jordan told us that they didn't get the chance to talk about the Pistons. So we're going to hit on them more, and we'll talk about the players we're getting the most exposure to. But, once again, we've got super chats here. We want to answer these, and, we're gonna cruise through this in a sec. We've got over an hour to talk about a 4-game NBA slate because we're doing the post-lock show as well today too.
Sure are. And every game's locking within an hour, which is kind of wild.
I really hope we get some weird, unexpected news that we could react to.
No, I don't, because then I'm going to wish I had more volume today, and I just don't feel like playing.
If it's going to make you upset, even more reason for me to want some weird news to break in the coming minutes. Corey Shea,
everything's filled already. It's just
your favorite, Corey Shea. You better answer his question this time, Eric.
Shit.
I swear, if you don't answer his question,
then what, Greg? What you gonna do to me? Huh, boss man? Huh?
I'll pull the lever on my chair and I'll make it go higher. Then we'll see. Corey Shea.
You need it.
Corey Shea, you would think with all the money Greg makes, he could get past the dial-up internet. Took 14th in the 100K on Saturday. Thanks for the content, boys. Corey, thank you for the super chat. Eric, you're going to answer his question this time.
Bing, bing, bing. That's the AOL dial-up.
Are you going to answer his question now?
No, I didn't see what it was. Top five FanDuel plays for FanDuel single entry. I can do that for him.
Corey Shea. No, answer the first one first. Corey Shea, you would think with all the money Greg makes, he could get past the dial-up internet. Took 14th in the 100K on Saturday. Thanks for the content, boys. Now answer his question, Eric, because you always refuse to answer his questions.
Top 3 fades if you had to over 30%.
Just passing by the first super chat.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. What do I say?
Just answer his question.
Congratulations. There's no question. There is further down.
A less useful answer to a question ever.
Top 3 fades if you had to over 30%. If I had to fade anybody over 30%, I can tell you because I'm literally making one lineup. I would fade over 30%. I think Marvin Bagley is somebody that you could definitely fade, but he's a really good play. I think you could fade Joel Embiid, and I think you could fade LaMelo Ball.
Ooh, that's a bold one.
I know they're the studs. What I'm saying is that, like, I think the thing that makes some sense is just finding other studs with upside, like getting to Ingram, getting to Tatum, who's lower owned than LaMelo Ball. Like, I think Tatum's my favorite of the studs. He's small forward, power forward. He's 10-2. You can kind of mix and match a little bit easier. And the ownership isn't nearly what it is. Well, I guess now it is pretty close. It's within 10% now. But earlier in the day, it was about 15%. So Jason Tatum sitting pretty good.
Some questions in our Discord channel. Oh, no. Eric, come on, Lippy.
What'd I do?
is 100% Sam Hauser night. It is not. I know you did.
I swear to God. Before. I swear to God, if it is. Actually, I kind of cheer for it tonight because you think he's fallen into one lineup for me? Sure isn't. So if I don't win, can't really be that crestfallen if it's Sam or not.
I give him 14 minutes. No,
absolutely not.
It's not a Sam Hauser night. If he goes off again, dear Lord. Sniffs 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you make a rule for the Pistons bigs since a lot of their value is rebounds? They're so cheap that you could limit the amount of players you're getting from the Pistons. Totally reasonable. But I don't want to make it where it's like I think it's too restricted to say don't play Wiseman and Bagley in the same lineup. I hear you. There's negative correlation there for sure, but James Wiseman's $3,700 on DK. Marvin Bagley's $4,500. Even if these guys are absolute garbage for real life, which they are, they're not good real life players. They're good enough fantasy producers. I assume both these guys are going to be playing big minutes today, and they're good enough fantasy producers that at their price points on both FanDuel and DraftKings, even FanDuel a little more expensive, there's more than enough opportunity for both of them to have big games relative to price.
Yeah, I know he was the one guy that I targeted in the cheap end where I said you can fade him. But the reasons aren't because he's like a bad play. My reasons are that you can only play him in 2 lineup spots. You play him at center or you play him at utility, whereas James Wiseman has 4 places. And all that means is that like he has fewer people to beat in terms of making it into an optimal lineup. Like Marvin Bagley still has to play very, very well in order to be optimal on this kind of a slate. Now, could you still get a big performance and have him be in a winning lineup? Absolutely. But I'm more inclined to try to like rotate through other centers. I'm in love with Jonas Valanciunas for tournaments. I'm in love with, trying to get to just as much Tatum as possible. If you're playing more than one lineup, which is all I'm playing, but like Tatum would be the main stud that I would want to get to. It just has to do with like, what is your path to winning in the event that you're playing a bunch of the chalk? I think for me, that's where I'm just more willing to get away from it, but there's no doubt about it. These guys are just too cheap. You can play lots of them in the same lineup. It's just one of those nights where you play a lot of them and you hope you hit the right combination.
Super chat from Oliver Closeoff. And this is from Oliver Closeoff. Also a fuck, marry, kill. Magruder, Livers, Thor. Do I have to marry or have sex with one of these fellas? I don't know about that.
I don't know. Magruder sounds naughty. It sounds freaking nutty.
I don't even know how to answer this one because, I mean, first, between Magruder, Livers, and Thor, I don't.
So JT Thor is off the board. Like we're killing him. He is dead. JT Thor does not live anymore. He played 26 minutes and put up 4.75 fantasy points last game. He is on the floor. I've never seen a Peloton instructor out on a basketball floor, but JT Thor is basically that because that's how much cardio he did.
But is Rodney Magruder any different?
No, but at least like if you've watched JT Thor play before, let me just say it's not an enjoyable experience because I can't remember what slate it was. So I've been playing NBA DFS for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. There was a JT Thor slate where it was like, he's a 0.55 fantasy point per minute guy. Maybe I can take some shots. He's the flatman. There's a reason this dude is 3K. He will only ever be 3K his entire NBA career. It is unbelievable to watch. I probably just talked him into 30, so enjoy that.
Like I said, I don't put it out that easy. I don't know that I could be with any of these gentlemen. I'm sure they're nice fellas, but not a fantasy production for me. I've got a certain type, and JT Thor, Isaiah Livers, and Rodney Magruder ain't them.
There's moments where Rodney Magruder could just find 24 minutes, but like, again, that's a larger allotment of lineups than I'm willing to make tonight. RJ Hampton's a better play.
At least I have exposure to Isaiah Livers.
Oh, okay. Isaiah Livers is fine. Like, I think Isaiah Livers actually like makes sense as a play. He's the only one who's pulling any kind of ownership with good reason. If you have to play a 3K Detroit Pistons guy that isn't, well, I guess Rodney Livers is 3,200. I think RJ Hampton makes the most sense just because if something happens to Killian Hayes, like RJ Hampton's just playing a lot. So there you go. There's your path to success.
So in the nature of the game, though, Oliver wants to know who we are going to fornicate with. He wants to know who we are going to marry and who we are going to kill. I will kill JT Thor.
Yeah, he's dead. That man is no longer living. He looks like a lovely human being.
For a poor life if I marry Isaiah Livers or Rodney Magruder.
Oh, yeah. Rather Ray McGruber.
I guess I'll marry Rodney Magruder because his last name is fun and I could take that on. And then Isaiah Livers. Yeah.
Greg Magruder. That's got alliteration and everything. So Honey Bear. Greg Magruder. Spam the chat. Let's go.
Listen,
forever.
This is when you get a fuck, marry, kill that's Rodney Magruder, Isaiah Livers, and JT Thor, you got to stretch when you're trying to.
Or you just kill all three and you go down with them. It's just,
and then
no, thank you.
The dirty sex with Isaiah Livers. Yourself now.
It's naughty. Freaking naughty.
Magruder, Livers, Thor, which, who are you marrying? Who are you doing the deed with? And who are you killing?
I said killing Thor. I'm doing the same three as you. Same way.
There we go. Thank you.
Normally is, because then we can have 3 ways and it can be everything we wanted and more.
Nice. All right. We're on the same page there. Next super chat, another one from Avi. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
Mm-hmm.
See, now this is where things get complicated because I don't know if this was supposed to be F, marry, kill reference, Willy Wonka reference, or a combination of the two.
So my best friend, he shot, so we played like a 4-ball event and he shot 63, just went completely ham. We shot like a best ball 60 or whatever. And he came into the clubhouse because he had like a bunch of buddies that were sitting at one of the tables. And he came in and did the entire Willy Wonka bit with the cane, but was like a 7-iron. It was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It was one of those moments you had to be there. You had to be there.
I would imagine so. I
realized this story didn't have anywhere to go, but it was just, that was the thing. Bum, bum.
He just gets that. By the way, Corey Shea's question, I know you had answered it already. Top 3 fades if you had to over 30%. You didn't like his first question, so you just jumped right to the second question. If I absolutely had to, see, this is tough because I'm not actually fading any of these guys, but I guess I would say Joel Embiid just because there's so much center value. And I feel like he might not be necessary just because of that.
I think center is that's the thing with Embiid. Like Embiid's gone completely ham biscuits, like gone nuts the last 2 games against Memphis, against Boston, looking at another spot against Miami. But like Miami's going to lead to fewer possessions. They are a good defensive team. Bam Adebayo is a good defender. They're 5th in adjusted defensive rating. They're 28th in pace this season, 96.6 possessions per 48 minutes. So like, I'm just not in love with the pace of the game. And so like center, I think is as wide open as it gets. I like Wendell Carter. Nobody's playing him really. I like Williams. He seems to be, just a good game environment every single time. Bagley, of course, down there on the cheap. I like Hernan Gomez if you're trying to get weird, because if something happens to my guy, J Val, you have an opportunity to get to some Hernan Gomez. And how many times have we seen where he plays 28 minutes and puts up 50? Like that's happened so many times. It happened 3 games ago. I just pulled up his box score. He literally did that exact same thing that I just said, 28 minutes, 50 fantasy points. Like he could totally do that. Center is much more open. Whereas like, that's why Tatum is just so hard to get away from. I'm like, even in one lineup, like why wouldn't I just lock that in?
And the other thing too is, so here's the issue with me saying who I would fade over 30%, why I could really only answer Embiid, because like the other guys are Pistons that are, you're making a mistake if you avoid, James Wiseman, Alec Burks, Marvin Bagley, Hamidou Diallo. You have to get some exposure to these guys. You could say that maybe you think they're too popular, but fade them outright, I think is pretty crazy. And then I know you'd given LaMelo as one of yours, but then also like have a bunch of Pistons exposure. I kind of have to have LaMelo as a run back in some of those, and that recaps all of the over 30% guys we have right now. So I can't recommend 3 to fade. Joel Embiid's
that's the thing. If I were making more than one lineup, I would have a ton of them and mix and match and just have some rules in place and some things to make sure that I didn't just have, like, if you go into Cruncher 2 and you just build out like the chalkiest lineups, it's pretty easy to see a path to like failure on this slate, because like there's a lot of really good pieces that are tough to get away from. It's going to be like a 1v1, 2v2 kind of situation that gets you into the winning lineup tonight. Like that's just, it feels like that kind of a night. I've never enjoyed those kind of nights when there's not late swap, when there's not pending news, when there's not other things that can show up and form a slate. I'm not as successful long-term. So like I've learned to just kind of hit eject on slates like this. But if you're playing this, like for me today, I think Embiid and Ball are phenomenal plays, but they are only locked into the one position. So I'm far more inclined to fade them in one lineup.
The next question is from Mr. CoolCam97. He wants to know who are the top 5 plays for FanDuel single entry.
All right.
So still a lot of these are going to be, honestly, I could give only Pistons for this answer and would not feel terrible about it. But
there's 4 of them.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like Bagley, Diallo, Burks, Wiseman. But outside of the Pistons guys, I would say LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier, just to get yourself some added correlation, assuming you're playing a bunch of Pistons guys. And then also Brandon Ingram and Tatum look exceptional on FanDuel as well.
Love it.
The next question we have is from, let's see, pretty sure we just got one from here, from Avi again. Avi loading up on the super chats. We appreciate it.
My dude.
I love Hard on FanDuel. He doesn't like him. He loves him. Any preference between White, Smart, and Brogdon, with Tatum only from the Celtics? All right. So he wants to get another Boston Celtic in his lineup. He's already got Jason Tatum. White, Smart, Brogdon. Who would be the next preference over on FanDuel? For me, that is Derek White.
Yeah, agreed. Again, announced starting, positive leverage at the moment. That's all good.
The next question that we have here is from, and I hope I didn't miss any of these. We got a bunch. Oh my God, it's Greg Magruder. Look at that.
Forever. Also, it's not Magruder, it's McGruber, but Magruder is funnier because now we're locked into the movie and there's another.
No. Like Rodney Magruder. Greg Magruder.
But it's McGruber, I thought. He has. Oh, it's spelled correctly. I'm an absolute dunce cap. Leave me alone. The movie MacGruber. You ever seen that?
No, that movie was not appealing looking to me at all.
Okay, it wasn't very good
on Rotten Tomatoes,
but it's not good.
Yeah, but anyway, this is Greg Magruder. This is me after I've been married.
I love it.
Struggling to be different tonight. How do you feel about throwing in an Oubre around chalky plays? So how about this? If you had to go with one guy today, Eric, you could say
I have the guy. I have a dude that nobody is playing.
I bet you do. Who is it?
Why would you be so mean to me like that?
Because I think you found the best play on the slate. That's mean.
No, I didn't say he's the best play on the slate, but it's the guy that I'm just getting completely different with. If I had to find the one dude to get completely different, RJ Hampton.
I do have some RJ Hampton exposure.
He's in my one lineup.
Mark Williams is projected for almost no ownership today.
That's wild to me. I'm with you.
It's like Mark Williams, I'm overweight to the field on. It's once again, there's a lot of good center options on this slate. Jonas Valanciunas is projected for almost no ownership today, and Nance is out. I think he makes sense. I'll say Mark Williams, though. He just makes the most sense with the players that I have in my other lineups, and I'm overweight to him.
Love it.
Mark Williams. Here we've got a super chat from Shakiri Food. He wants to know who the best DK plays are. So I know you just have the one lineup. I'm not going to make you give it out, but I am going to just go across DK. These are the players I have the most position to. The players I have the most exposure to at each position.
Okay, found it.
LaMelo Ball at point guard. LaMelo Ball and Killian Hayes at point guard. Mm-hmm. Shooting guard, Hamidou Diallo and Alec Burks. They're super chalky, but I don't know how you avoid playing them across multiple lineups.
Agreed.
So they're the ones I got the most of. Diallo also small forward eligibility, and Jason Tatum. Power forward, Wiseman, center, also. There. Oh my God. Let me tell you something.
It's my favorite thing I've ever seen in my entire life come up on the screen on the show.
Ever since he got married to me, Rodney Magruder, things have never been better for him. He's starting.
Oh my God.
He just got the Detroit Pistons starting lineup, and listen to this 5. I mean, this.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh no. Seriously? You gotta be kidding me. I'm telling you, it was such incredible news that his husband was starting that he put a freeze frame up and he's going to the game right now. He didn't think this was possible, but he is gone. Greg is in another realm. Look at that. That is the face of an excited man who's there to support him. Yeah, Daddy is starting officially. All right, so let's take a look at this because this is just absolutely wild. Starting lineup for everybody: Killian Hayes, Alec Burks, Magruder, Livers and Wiseman. I have never have I ever seen such absolute terror. Ridiculous starting lineup that we had. So here's the thing. I think this opens up a lot of opportunity, just not having Diallo be somebody who shows up there. That's more of a contrarian piece, but I think the ownership still stays up. It's 20 minutes until lock of that game. And just think about this game environment. There's so many ways. This makes it impossible. I was going to try to get away from one lineup, not playing Alec Burks. You just kind of have to play him. He's sharing the floor with Magruder and Livers now. This is just absolute disgusting stuff. So I'm going into Detroit. I'm going to update some of my stuff in real time and just kind of talk you through it. So Livers, I had him projected as one of the starters there. He was, I think it's Stokastic. Yep, 32 minutes that we had in for him as well. So that was always going to be a piece that was fine there. But having Magruder in there, obviously instead of Diallo, it makes Diallo kind of interesting if the ownership comes down. But again, I don't know if in real time that ends up being the case. So we have to be paying very, very close attention to it. Ronnie Magruder, he's not a good fantasy point per minute guy, but he's a flat 3K.
How dare you? How dare you?
What'd I do?
I've been married to him for 7 minutes and you're already he's not good at, go.
He's a terrible fantasy point per minute guy, but
God, he's a
starting
wonderful
and
human being.
Yeah.
He's very handsome. And
my question, Greg, is Hamidou Diallo, he's still the way better fantasy point per minute guy, but the ownership, he's going to be over-owned now that those minutes are going to come down. He's 3,600. He still has the best eligibility shooting guard, small forward, but how do you kind of handle this? Because again, your husband is now starting against the Charlotte Hornets. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. So I still find it hard to fade him outright, but I'm definitely going to be projecting him for less minutes now.
Totally. Yeah.
I still expect the first time the Pistons go to the bench, it's going to be, my assumption is Bagley and Diallo check in.
Correct.
So yeah, he's less appealing now, but still the Pistons have how many players? They have Hayes, Bagley, Burks, Wiseman, Diallo, Magruder, Livers, Corey Joseph. They only have 10 active guys. All of these players are still going to have to play a ton.
Yeah, I mean, that's the pain in the ass of this slate. I think, because again, if Hamidou Diallo is starting, I think you just kind of play it. Now it's I think he's going to be over-owned. It's just one of those inherent things to be true, but he's such a good fantasy point per minute producer. I think this is really, really good for Killian Hayes. I find Killian Hayes, he already was a fantastic play. He's already owned unbelievably high, but this starting lineup, having Livers and Magruder out there is so good for him to start off. If he's playing 6 minutes there to start off that game, another 6 minutes at the beginning of the third without them, Wiseman, so unfadable.
It sucks I have to do this, but I think I'm obligated to play Rodney Magruder at this point. But I also think
you are.
But I also think we'll see we'll see when we get an ownership update in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let's see. This game starts in 17 minutes. How many people are even going to play Rodney Magruder? He's cheap and he's starting at the very least, and he's very good position eligibility.
Yeah, not many. I'm saying I'm with you. I think that nobody is going to be clicking on him. For me, can he play enough to kind of matter? It's very, very difficult.
He could play.
Oh my God.
by the way, I got to 15% of Rodney Magruder.
Yeah, see, that's fine. I don't think you want to be getting carried away, mainly because it's he still has to perform well, even if he's 3K, because on a slate like today, you got to get 30 or 25 or 30. I think you're going to need a crazy minutes allotment from him, but I'm more inclined to if you're torn on what to do, I'd be more inclined to not play him than to play him if you're sitting between two things there.
There are people who think we don't live in a simulation. When we contemplate the F, marry, kill question for so long, and then the starting lineup comes out.
But then the joke creates itself, and then God says, "Here you are." Huzzah!
It just came together perfectly.
Jordan Klein's having more fun today than he's had in a long time. I'm just happy to see you so chipper and having fun and enjoying yourself. What a time to be alive. What a time.
It is. It's the first time Jordan smiled at work in probably a month and a half.
It's true.
Damn
it, Mike.
Somewhere around there. Another question from Shikari Mifud. What's the center value if I'm not getting Embiid? My friend, if you cannot find center value today,
buddy, you got to be kidding me, right?
Wiseman, Bagley, Mark Williams, Jonas Valanciunas.
A wise man once said.
My preferred answer there is Wiseman, though.
Agreed. Just play him. It's there's no way that at 3,700, unless he gets hurt, unless he does something, like, it's just such a smash. It's such a joke. Like, this is the best matchup you could possibly have if you're a terrible basketball team and you have a bunch of cheap pieces. Like, they can be competitive still.
Well, I'm going to have some lineups today that I assume are going to be duped more than I would like in large field tournaments. But
why do you think I am not playing basketball today? I have one lineup, and it's just, there's no way around it.
Next super chat here is from Michael Pizzulli. By the way, congrats to Michael Pizzulli. I saw you had a pretty good win on FanDuel the other day. Came in second and won $1,000 in, I forget which tournament it was, but I saw that. Congrats to you. Michael Pizzulli. Hey, fellas, who's the better chance of nuking the slate? Embiid or Tatum? Tatum.
Nuke. Yeah, Tatum, for sure.
Corey Shea, best utility player, 3,300 or under on DK.
Best utility player, 3,300 or under. It's going to be one of the. I don't want to say Livers. That would be disgusting.
Livers 1, Magruder 2.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right order of things. They're also going to be pretty popular. I'll go back to my guy, RJ Hampton, still getting no love. The Pistons showing a willingness to play absolute trash in that starting lineup. So why not getting RJ Hampton off the bench for 24 minutes, 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy, just a path to get different.
Tanking season is upon us for sure. No doubt.
Although RJ Hampton is no longer in that lineup that I made. I want it to be very clear, very clear. He's no longer in it. Alec Burks, unfadable now.
Another question here from, this is, just tell me what to F and I'll F it. That is a McGruber quote.
Oh, I'm going to shoot. That's my favorite one, but it's fine.
By the way, it was so I've seen bits and pieces of the movie. I did find McGruber was very funny on Saturday Night Live. The movie was just, it's funny in like
Will Forte is his name. Yeah.
But the sketch is funny because it's like, like it's a 4 or 5 minute sketch. I don't need like 90 minutes of that character. You know what I mean? Like I 5 totally or 6 minutes at a time is perfect. That's why people are confused. You and I do the show for an hour and a half at a time. It's like, boy, it's pretty good for, 7 minutes, but do I really need an hour and a half? That you actually do. Let's see some more super chats coming in. And if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And once again, No House Avengers is sponsoring us today. If you guys haven't checked them out yet, $100 bonus when you sign up for the first time, up to when you use our link below. And there's going to be props that you can play against the house there. Eric and I are going to be walking through that in the post-lock show using NBA Bet Pro, which is the new prop betting tool we have over at Stokastic.com. And when you sign up for that, you want to use the link we have below because you get a 7-day free trial the first time you go and check out our product. Super chat from my filler arc, Mitchell Robinson, Bagley or Love? That is Bagley.
Bagley.
Ryan Nelson, Magruder helped KSU finish 4th in the 2010-2011 Big 12. KU with the Morris twins, Tristan and Corey J on Texas, and Texas A&M with Middleton only to finish ahead. That was information I didn't know. How do you answer his question, Eric?
There's no question.
All right. Helpful again.
You're
John
welcome.
Good, looking for low-owned plays.
Bless you, Jordan Klein. Jesus. You okay?
He just sneezed all over his camera.
He did. He didn't even cover his mouth. That was, I know you're in your own place of home and living, but like disgusting.
Yeah. And nobody's been there basically ever.
That's true. That's
John Good looking for low-owned guys, Bam or Brunson on DK, just because of positions, Brunson. There's so many good centers. There's way more paths for Brunson to be optimal.
Yep.
Josh G playing Bagley and Wiseman together okay in the 150. Yes.
Yes.
Avi Schreier, Bagley still better than Livers on FanDuel, right? Yes.
Yes.
Jake Lindland, DK single entry, Embiid in $3,100 versus Mark Williams and Ingram. I prefer Mark Williams and Ingram.
There you go. Same Z's.
We caught up on these.
Looks like it. This could be the type of game
chats.
Thor balls out. No, he will not. If you watch that last Charlotte game, my God, there's no way. There's no way JT Thor puts 30 fantasy points in your biscuit. You're fine.
Yeah, I very highly doubt that as well. Some questions from our Discord channel, so make sure that we'll answer these as well. Let's try to get through questions as quickly as we can here. Tall Tale, how much Magruder you're getting to in DK GPPs? He's asking me. I have 15%
0
of Magruder for me personally. Sam Cassell, Dance, Diallo, and Jonas Valanciunas, or Magruder and Boncaro, Diallo and Jonas Valanciunas.
Agreed.
Steve G, Mark Williams or Bagley?
Bagley.
Seth 1374. Sorry, I've been away. The wife and her boyfriend had a huge fight. It looks like somebody.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh my God, it looks like somebody's gonna get his old bedroom back. Apparently, she's surprised at what a Cleveland steamer was. Who's your favorite non-Piston value? Nothing's worse than when you agree to something you don't know what it is. That's happened to me too. You go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, you go, oh, that looks good. And then you end up ordering something that's just not what you thought it was. I'm sure the Cleveland steamer feels fairly similar to that kind of scenario. But who's our favorite non-Pistons value today?
Guillermo Hernangomez.
Mark Williams for me.
Okay.
I mean, it depends like what.
Value? What constitutes value? Mark Williams is what? 5,900? It's not value.
I answered it how I wanted to.
Okay, now who's being difficult? Oh, I'm going to answer it the way I want to.
Still you.
Okay,
Mincash Merchant, who do you guys rather have? 68. What would you rather have? 68% Wiseman or 100% Wiseman?
100.
Yeah, probably. I mean, those are like very odd specific numbers, but
I was going to say, I'll say 100 if you're making me pick between the two.
Yeah. There's no other answers. You build your lineup that you can only have 68% or 100%.
I got 74. No, you must play 68.
Hey, those are the rules. What can you do?
Whatever.
What can you do?
I'm so happy to be taking this slate off. My God, it's incredible.
Jose Morales. And by the way, my fellow arc had I think, didn't he ask us this? Mitchell Robinson, Bagley or Love? I guess he had another guy in here, but Bagley of those three. Mm-hmm. Jose Morales. I have 4,100 left in my flex spot. I already have Tatum, Embiid, and Ball, plus a lot of Detroit, Burks, Wiseman, Diallo. But $4,100, who should he be playing in utility spot? He said he is Wiseman already. He said he is Burks already.
Sean V brought the garbage with Anunoby. I had less than 10%. I was getting him more than 10% before lock. Dude, you are so stupid. Timeout. Dude, what are you even saying? Just because I say somebody's name in one grouping of lineups, just out of your mind. You're out of your mind. Mitchell Robinson.
For me.
Yeah.
Team
okay,
Sean
thanks.
V.
Yeah, whatever. He can think about it for 300 seconds.
Yeah.
Corey Shea, $1.99.
Oh, wait, we didn't answer Jose's question.
Oh, what was Jose's question?
$4,100 left in his flex spot. He already has Tatum, Embiid, and Ball, plus a lot of Detroit. Burks, Wiseman, Diallo. Who should he play in the utility spot? I've heard on Gomez projected next best.
Let's go. That's again. I wish I would play more than one lineup. I could play Hernangomez. I'm playing Valanciunas, but I do love Hernangomez for tournaments.
Steve Schuster, DK best forward 7,300 and below. That's Boncaro, easy.
Yep.
There's nobody around him.
Nope.
Corey Bomber, Hayward and Fultz, or Diallo and Brunson.
Diallo Brunson, not close.
And now Jake Lindeland. Where'd it go here? Last spot, DK single entry, Hernan Gomez or Diallo. It's still Diallo.
Yep, still Diallo.
Next one, Corey Shea, Mitchell Robinson going for over 7x, and I have 0. There's going to be a lot of centers that crush today. Yep. I don't think Mitchell Robinson is going to be one of them.
I liked Mitchell Robinson that first slate back. He got off to a hot start. My biggest issue, it just seems as though like, I mean, is he just going to be locked into 28 minutes? That's great and all, but 5,200, you're going to need 40 from him. So just throwing it out there, can he do the stocks and do the things to get you there? Sure, but doesn't feel great.
And by the way, if anybody wants access to all the tools we have at Stokastic.com, like literally everything, Anything you could think of, anything you could imagine in your mind, we have it. We have it for basically every single sport over here. And any package you want, you sign up using the link below, 50% off. NBA lineup generator, it's going to build you a bunch of lineups, up to 20 of them. You pick and choose which ones you want, 50% off. And as is, you could already get that for less than $10. Use the link below, sign up for any package we have over at Stokastic.com for the first time, and you will get 50% off of that package. Green checkmark, Bagley and Hero, or Ingram and Hernan Gomez for FanDuel, Bagley and Hero.
Yeah, same.
The next question is from... All right, cool. We answered these. So fire through some more Discord questions. We got 5 minutes to go until lock, but Eric and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes. So stay here for that. Scripps, Tatum or Harden? Tatum.
Tatum.
Next question here is from Opposite Exo. White, Smart, or Brogdon? If we had to choose one, that is White.
Yep, same.
And Tall Tales, are worth getting under the field on LaMelo in DK GPPs? I'm not underweight to the field on him. Here's the issue I ran into as I was building my lineups, particularly for large field tournaments here. There is so much cheap value and so much of it comes in the front court that, like, I have 20% of Embiid, but like I found him a little bit harder to get up to in the likes of Tatum and the likes of LaMelo Ball. And if you're playing a lot of the Detroit value, you just have to use some of your salary elsewhere. A lot of that ended up being LaMelo and Tatum for me. So yep. I found it very difficult to be underweight to the field on LaMelo.
Yep, I do too. For me, playing one lineup, this one lineup was always going to be fading LaMelo Ball, and therefore I have all the, 100% because it's one lineup, Terry Rozier. If you're going to have LaMelo not go out and put up that crazy ceiling performance, Terry Rozier has shot the ball abysmally, and these are my favorite kind of tournament plays. He went, 2 for 10, 3 for 15, his last two, 0 for 5 from 3, 2 for 8 from 3. If he starts making shots, that changes pretty quickly. He's 6,800, kind of priced in no man's land. I think he's a really good tournament option.
Lippy wants to fade all the Pistons today and play all the Sam Hauser. How drunk am I?
Very.
The default answer when you ask if you're drunk, yeah, I'm fairly sure the answer is always.
I thought you were drunk the night Sam Hauser did smash. So like today, where there's unlimited value, you would have to be like uncle on Thanksgiving who should not be shared with the outside world drunk. Like that is the level of drunk you are.
Yeah. Who's also like oddly interested in the kids and what they're doing. That kind of drunk.
A little creepy, but yes, that was kind of the joke. I didn't hit it on the head like you, but there you are.
Avi Schreier, Hero Ingram on FanDuel. That is Ingram.
There you go. Ingram.
One more super chat here. I keep thinking that we don't have any more super chats. Another one populates. KJ3, Tobias Harris, or Kelly Oubre. Just based on the correlation of what we're going to be doing in lineups today, Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel good, but like those are the kind of times on a slate like this, that 1v1 where you actually get access to him. He's only played 22, 23 minutes the last two games. They're not going to give him a lot of run, it would seem like. But if they do, if it blows out and maybe he gets garbage time run, that is a huge piece of differentiation.
Super chat from Discord question from Noobs on Ice 24/7. DK question: Wiseman and Hernan Gomez, or Bagley and Magruder? Wiseman and Hernan Gomez.
Yeah, agreed. And to the person in chat who's like, Hernan Gomez doesn't make sense. He makes a ton of sense. He's like 6% owned. Jonas Valanciunas is, still going to be active, but no Larry Nance. That's a huge piece where I think Hernan Gomez plays the backup center minutes. He's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer. He's a better fantasy point per minute producer than his co-part, Jonas Valanciunas. So like, he doesn't need a lot of minutes to smash. Again, 28 minutes, 50 fantasy points a couple of games ago. I doubt he gets to 28, but if he gets to 24, my God, is he incredible.
If Magruder crushes tonight.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. First of all, we're getting a bigger house. It's going to be incredible.
I know. How much did you end up with?
15%.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I don't even know.
But if he does, it's more of like for the bit. It's for the bit.
Let's see. What did, let me refresh our ownership projections to see where he ended up. We just got an ownership projection update from a minute ago.
Someone doesn't agree with
Magruder's 4% owned. I'm about 3x the field on him. Closer to 4x the field, actually.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. All right. Magruder, 4%. I'll read off all of the Well, actually, I don't even have to read them off. We're at lock. We can find out what the actual ownership is on these guys right now. And we're going to be looking at some of our favorite prop bets of the night. I know we don't have all that much to talk about in that realm because, well, actually, let's do that first because we're going to have a few minutes until these games lock. So we have more opportunity to talk about these props and what's going on in the first game. So Jordan, could you pull up NHA? Let's build a prop against the house right here. I built one earlier in the day with Neil, but it's changed since then.
Oh, slightly, just slightly.
I'm also going to pull up NBA Bet Pro. It's the easiest way to look at all the projections we have and how they project relative to all the props that are out there. It's going to give you projected EV on all of these numbers and then also expected win rate on these props. And once again, it's using a lot of the projections that we have for DFS purposes. So it's super profitable tool. And if you guys want to sign up 1 week for free, 1 week free trial, clicking on the link below. And I'm going to pull these up while Eric and I try to find some props that we like for NHA. And so I'm kind of surprised this one didn't move. Earlier in the day, it's our number one projected prop. And when Neil and I were doing our NHA show earlier, the reason we didn't include this in our parlay card is because we didn't know if Tyler Hero was going to be in or out. But the over-under for points on Jimmy Butler was 21.5 when Hero was questionable. Hero got ruled in and it remained at 21.5. The prop either should have gone down a little bit when Hero got ruled in, or it should have gone up a little bit when he got ruled out. The fact that it stayed the same, I think there's a little bit of value in the under there. 21.5, Jimmy Butler hasn't been quite as great of a scorer this year as in previous years. And then also, that game against Philly, 217 total. That's about as low as you'll see in a 2023 NBA game. So give me under 21.5 points for Jimmy Buckets. I know that him and I have a little bit of a rivalry. Come through for me here, Jimmy. What do you think of that?
Yeah, in the words of 50 Cent and G Unit, in their smash hit single, Hate It or Love It, G Unit remix, I thought it would change. It's staying the same. So
exactly.
There you go.
As a wise man once said. So put that in there, Jordan, if you could. Jimmy Butler for under 21.5 points.
It's off the board now. Okay. There was.
All right. So, well, that's going to be a little bit problematic here. Let's see what else we have that looks, or I guess, are the first two games off the board now already?
Looks like it might be, yes. Yep.
I thought we were going to get a little bit of wiggle room there until the game's
actually. Wiggle.
Yeah. No such luck for these two fellas.
Nope.
But for the later games, let's see if anything stands out. So we've got two games to choose from: Boston, New York, Orlando, New Orleans. Does anything stand out to you from the Boston, New York, or the New Orleans and Orlando game?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of unders that are projecting out really, really well for us. It makes a lot of sense. Jalen Brunson, I have been on this guy's points props more than the average bear, but against Boston, under 25.5. Looks a little bit interesting, at least, to kind of go that direction. I'm actually on his assist prop today. 5.5 was nice plus money. That was over in NBA Bet Pro as well. So shout out that. I always like to, even when you're going through your own stuff, you want to be able to cross-reference that. And our projections have been so good over on NBA Bet Pro. It's been pretty easy. You can also export it through Excel, CSV, whatever you want to do. So that makes it very handy as well. But 25.5 points, grading out as our third highest there. I think the under of that definitely looks a little bit more appealing today.
I think that totally makes sense. And let's, for 1 second, answer a super chat we just got from Cyber Real Estate. In stock market, they say a sock is making higher highs or lower lows. I always pick more on 2-player parlays. What is the difference in highest high 10, 10 more rebounds, and lower low 2, 2 more rebounds, stock of player? What do you think, Eric?
I think.
Should I read the question for you again?
Yeah, one more time. Go ahead.
In stock market, they say a sock. All right, so we're talking about socks now.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
A sock is making higher highs or lower lows. I always pick more on 2-player parlay. What is the difference in highest high 10, 10 more rebounds, and lower low 2, 2 more rebounds, stock of player?
This is what I chose to do with my life. This is where my path has taken me. Listening to that, I will say the words of the thing that don't apply to the frame of the word with other things, and then time and illusions with cards. There you go.
Yertle, yertle, the Pirtle. Wow, look at that Pirtle. Go sledge, fox, sledge. That's what
totes, let's go, my goats. Yeah, got it.
Cyber Real Estate, I see you're in chat. You don't have to leave us another super chat, but if you have any clarification, just throw that into YouTube and we'll answer. If not, I might have to go in the other room, grab a bong, and then maybe I'll be able to translate.
Let's get this party started.
Yeah,
hell yeah, brother. Every time you pause, I'm worried to death you're frozen. Like every time you pause between sentences.
No, I'm right now. I'm more confused. I'm trying to figure out what this question means, and I'm really not sure.
I think T McB is right. The answer is 7.
I'll read it one more time.
I tried to match gibberish. I did the best that I could.
Okay. What is the difference in high 10, 10 more rebounds, lower low 2, 2 more rebounds? Okay, so he wants to know what's the difference. I mean, it's going to be different player to player, if I understand what he's asking us.
I don't
like, so he wants to know, like, what's the difference between a player having 10 or more rebounds or having 8 or more rebounds in terms of, like, I think that's what he's asking. Like, it's going to, like, certain players are just going to have,
right,
are going to be at more high variance and have more swings in their stats than others. So you're actually,
so do we want to do a stats thing? So here's the way to think about this. So you have a bell curve, okay? In statistics, you have a bell curve. You in dead middle, you have 50% on one side, 50% on the other. Okay. You have 68% of the outcomes within one standard deviation on both sides. Then 95% of all the detailed range of outcomes within 2 standard deviations on both sides of the curve. You go out to 3, it's 99.8 within, or sorry, it's 65, 68, 95, 99.7, right? Within all those things that are outside 3 standard deviations. An injury would be like, 0 if an injury happens in the first minute. That would be on the far left side of the curve. And on the far right is what Naz Reid did yesterday. So, like, you have the bell curves, okay? And I don't know what else he wants me to do with this information. That's the best that I got for you. That was my stats information for you today.
Yeah, I think the answer is dog.
Dog is good. Dude, bro, chill.
I'm going to go with dog. Next super chat is from Greg Magruder. I like totals. That was the super chat. You can answer.
You said it was such enthusiasm. I enjoyed it. Let's continue putting this card together, shall we? Because I do want to play a little on No House Advantage tonight and post it for the people.
Yeah, I just was giving a second for everything to update with
that works too.
The lines actually being here, and we got some super chats. I wanted to make sure, because these super chats, they were very important questions, and I wanted to make sure that we were for sure giving them the due that they deserved.
But what is dog? Yeah, that's the right answer.
The answer to the question. All right, let's go back over to NHA. And here we go. If you refresh NBA Bet Pro, you're going to get the props available for the Boston-New York game. Orlando and New Orleans, the other games have now been filtered out. And let's see, I'm trying to remember now, just it's been a second. What was the prop that you went with there? The Jalen Brunson under?
Yeah, I took the under 25.5.
Okay, which is one that it's a big number for Jalen Brunson. Another one that we have projected fairly well that, by the way, I posted this on Twitter. A lot of people got upset about it. Made me like it a little bit more. Brandon Ingram under 26.5 points. By the way, and I like Brandon Ingram as a tournament play today.
Oh, buddy, so I almost put it on my card, but so many people are on the over today that I just didn't even, I couldn't even.
It's such a big number for Brandon Ingram.
Gigantic.
It's such a big number, and it's so much closer to his ceiling than what just his average performances are.
Yep. And he's also played some games now recently without CJ McCollum. This is why it drives me batshit bonkers crazy when people are like, he did X amount, or he scored X amount of points in 15 of his last 18 games. I generally don't give a shit. Like, I just don't. Unless there was a massive change in rotation, you go from bench to a starting role and it's plugged into minutes, or somebody else major, like, at the very beginning when Cade Cunningham got hurt, that ended up being my Bojan prop for the next month, it felt like, where it was just smash fest. But it didn't have anything to do with I project out, because he did this last game. Like, I really do not care. And I think Brandon Ingram, it's a pure like stat box score watching situation.
Yeah, and I get in recent games the minute the usage has been there. He's taking a lot of shots. It still doesn't lead to him consistently hitting the over anything, and the numbers gone up. And yeah, it's more than anything just how big the number is. And we don't even have him projected that poorly. We have him projected for about 25 points tonight. But it's a hefty projection for Brandon Ingram. It still has us liking the under. So let's go with that. Let's get some people upset with the under on Brandon Ingram.
It. And also, Brandon Katz, I'm with you. Like, I have been on a lot of Jalen Brunson overs, but I got to say, it's also been some unsustainable shooting, and it started to come down to earth here in recent games. I just think this is a huge number. When you're looking at 25.5, he averages 23.7 points per game. He's now facing the Boston Celtics. Like, I know there's no Jaylen Brown out there, but Boston, 6th in adjusted defensive rating, 17th, dead middle in terms of pace in the league. Like, there aren't going to be extra possessions like there would be if you were facing, some of the faster paced teams in the NBA, Sacramento or Charlotte. There aren't going to be easy defensive matchups. Again, they have Marcus Smart back on the perimeter, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon. Like, you're not getting any freebies out there for Jalen Brunson. Now, he's been awesome. I've loved watching him play on the offensive end this season. Still some deficiencies in pick and roll and other things, but you're willing to overlook that. He has been awesome for the New York Knicks. And I've been on the over more times than not, but I like the under today.
And it's fun. I bet the over on assists for Derek White early this morning. It opened up at 3.5. It looks like a very low assist prop for me. 3.5 with him expected to start in the absence of Jaylen Brown. But the points prop for him, 17.5. I think that's pretty high because him moving into the starting lineup, I definitely think is conducive to his assist numbers. But the points, it's going to be, he's competing for usage with Jason Tatum and, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Robert Williams. Like, there's a lot of guys in there. And 17.5, we have him projected today for, where do we have Derek White? 16.5 about. Once again, like, it's not like we're crazy under here, but we do have the under winning 58% of the time. So I like Derek White for under 17.5 points here. Can you get on board with that?
I totally can. I just turned on the Pistons game and Rodney Magruder hit a 3 right out of the gate. It was hilarious.
Look at that. Kenny Wayne, Greg's hubby is balling. Yeah. Let's see. What is his ownership in the $15 on DK? Imagine if I won a tournament with Rodney Magruder today.
I truly want it to be true so badly. Actually, I'm totally fine with that. You can have all the glory.
He's 6% owned in the $15.
Jesus, so great.
Let's go. Come on,
James Wiseman, board and dunk on the board. Let's go.
Travis Long. I just wanted to say, I think it's really cool that Stokastic supports Eric's condition. I can't read.
Wow.
Sometimes you got to read ahead on these, right? Like, I think
you do.
Especially considering the
one the other
day, like we really should be reading ahead on some of these.
I did read ahead, which is what made me so upset the other day. But this is, again, it's so weird to time somebody out for a $5 super chat. But thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah,
we do go ahead and make fun of me, but also,
and by the way, we really do what we can to support Eric. The next question that we have, and let me check Discord to make sure there weren't any questions in there.
There's a nicer way of saying that joke is the right way of putting it. Like,
there's meaner ways to say it also, though.
There are that too.
There's
not
meaner
funny
ways
though.
To say it.
Not funny in any way, shape, or form. More of like, I don't know. Just seems to be happening more and more lately. Check yourself at the door. Magruder, 2 steals. Stop it.
What is happening here? All right, let's pull this up.
Oh my goodness. They gave that to Alec Burks. I don't know what somebody's talking about.
All right. So apparently LaMelo Ball is just turning the ball over like it's on
sure
fire.
Is. Yeah.
LaMelo
like it's on fire.
LaMelo has 3 turnovers in 3 minutes. against the team that is starting Alec Burks, Isaiah Livers, James Wiseman, Rodney McGruder, and Killian Hayes.
Yeah, and then he's still out there just chucking. He's 2 for 2 from 3. Mark Williams blocking board. I mean, this is just such a nutty game. I'm so happy I took this slate off. I repeat, one lineup. What a stress-free day today was. I feel so good. Anything could happen. I don't care.
Yeah, you could even win a GPP with Rodney McGruder in your lineup.
I couldn't. I don't have him.
I can. It's going to happen. I'm going to speak.
That would be so amazing. You will have to change your name to Greg Magruder on Twitter, like going forward.
We got another super chat from our friend Cyber Real Estate. I picked 2 players, more of 10 rebounds on a ticket. Another ticket, 2 players and 3 rebounds. We want the Calculus Insight, 2 points to determine a line. How are these 2 types of players operating in a game? So like a same game parlay, I assume he means.
Okay. Oh my God. Ball is now just made. Is that 4 for 4 from 3? Did he just make 4 threes to start off this game?
It's maybe the weirdest stat line I've ever seen. He's 4 for 4 with 3 turnovers in like 3.5 minutes.
Jesus Christ. What a time to be alive. And I have Terry Rozier in a lineup. That feels good. Oops.
All right. I want to be more helpful to Cyber Real Estate. He picks 2 players with more than 10 rebounds on a ticket. Another player, 2 players and 3 rebounds. We want the Calculus Insight, 2 points to determine a line. How are these 2 types of players operating in a game? So it has to. Okay. So I assume he means it's a same game parlay and he's got a bunch of players, the over on the rebounds.
I mean, you just want more possessions to take place in the game. If it's a Cleveland and Dallas game where you have 2 very slow-paced teams, you're going to have fewer possessions. You're looking at a low total. When you have a high total like that, but that's usually baked into the numbers already. When we find small edges, like we're finding every single day for you in NBA Bet Pro, things like that to get you on the right side of plays. When you're talking about like a 2 rebound difference or something like it's true. Like rebounds are not shared. The only statistic that is shared in basketball is the assist to a bucket. Like that is a shared play. That's how 2 players accumulate stats at the same time. Otherwise, everything is individualized. You threw a turnover. You made a 3-pointer. You got a rebound, stuff like that. So like when you're looking at 2 10 rebound tickets, something like that, I just want to see as many. I want to, first of all, get good odds on the outcome. So you project it out. But then if I'm looking at like a correlated play playing 2 together, I just want as many possessions taking place in the game as possible. I want them to be the Lakers, OKC, Charlotte, teams like that just are flying up and down the court, have over 100 possessions per 48 minutes, stuff like that.
And I just realized something that we had. Neil pointed out that, Neil and I did have LaMelo in our earlier NHA card we made. We had LaMelo for over 3.5 threes. That might be the fastest anybody's ever hit an over 3.5 threes prop.
That is insane. That's inside of 5 minutes. Also, I just want to point out JT Thor, 5 minutes, just doing his best Thon McCurr impression, zeros across the board. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, let's look at some of the other stats going on in this game. Rodney McGruder has cooled off a little bit. 3 points and a steal for him. Who are some of the other standouts here? Killian Hayes, 2 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist. Of course, LaMelo Ball, 12 points and an assist for LaMelo Ball to go along with 3 turnovers in 4 minutes. What is this? Just absolutely insanity. And Gordon Hayward, 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists in 4 minutes. Stacks of the Hornets and the Pistons game are looking good early.
You don't say.
In the Heat 76ers game, Jimmy Butler's off to a good start. 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Gabe Vincent has 6 points and 2 rebounds. That's a big start for Gabe Vincent. From the Sixers side of the game, Embiid ain't doing shit. Nobody's really doing anything. Harden has 6 points and assists. That's kind of it, though.
Yeah. Ship called the Butler. So you could just play a low-owned stud in another game? What a concept. That's what I did. I'm playing Julius Randle, though, in my lineup.
Julius Randle. Alec Burks just hit a shot. Well, do I get whatever Rodney Magruder does, I get credit for it today.
You do. Well, you get to welcome him home with a love, open arms. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we have?
Jordan doesn't know what to do with himself today. It's so great.
Jordan thinks this is weird, but he watches whatever that shit is on Twitch that he sent us in our group chat.
Oh, dude, bro. Oh, it's so great. You got to watch it. It's cool. Dude.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
they just dress up like Harry Potter and they do that for the entire day. It's really cool.
The weirdest thing ever. Killian Hayes steal. Cringe. Killer mentality.
Can you pull back up our NHA prop card, Jordan?
You're getting wrecked. This is LaCroix. This is LaCroix. I have sparkling water and another water. I'm doubling down on my water intake today.
All right. So we have here. Yeah. So here,
three of them so far.
We've got a 3-pick parlay right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So here's where we're at with NHA.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the guy. My absolute sledgehammer. It's coming in.
Oh, you got
Jonas Valanciunas over 14.5 points. The key to Jonas Valanciunas' life, the key to everything, get Larry Nance off the floor, because Larry Nance is the eternal thorn in Jonas Valanciunas' side. You know who's the thorn in his side today? Nobody. Coming off of the break, 32 minutes. You give me 30 minutes of Jonas Valanciunas long-term, I'm going to project him for more than the 14.3 points per game that he averages. On the season, he is averaging 24.5 minutes per game, 14.3. You add 6 minutes to that line becomes 17 plus for me. I think 14 and a half. That's my favorite prop on NHA today.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to add to it, or are we good with? It's hard. There's only 2 games, right? I know the best value is the 5-player props where it pays out 21x over on NHA, but there's not that many other spots to choose from. I'm perfectly cool with cutting us off at 4 and going with the 11x card, unless there's something else you really, really want in here.
Nope. Oh my God. Ball's now up to 12, 3, and 2. Jesus Christ.
So how close are we to saying that you need him tonight?
We are very close. They're not quite
Gordon
to
Hayward too.
Kai Jones checking into the game. This will be interesting. Yeah, Gordon Hayward, 8, 2, and 2. Here's the thing. I took the over of his. It was down to 25.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. That was too low. So that was on my betting card today in the premium Discord, if you guys want to check that out.
Very, very nice. So
thank you,
back up, Jordan, to the people. The card in its totality.
Dude, watching Marvin Bagley hurts me. Like, I don't enjoy watching him play basketball.
Did he check
This
in?
is just what? Yeah, he just checked in. He just scored right away.
Gotcha.
He's just so weird out there on the floor. It's just like
I think player comps are extremely stupid, because I think most players are pretty individual. They aren't really that similar once they're in like Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman are incredibly similar to me.
I kind of agree with it. I think, like, if you had to pick one for the next 10 years, I think it's pretty easy who I take.
I mean,
they're probably not going to go 10
for me just because he's so much cheaper and he's played less. But ultimately, it's probably none.
Yeah, it's probably none of them. And then if you made me take one, I would take the shot on Wiseman. I don't think it's remotely close. I think Marvin Bagley, you are who we think you are. Like you're just it sucks too. And he's a Dookie. Like, I want to cheer for my Dookies, but I've just never liked watching him play basketball.
How did you come to be a Duke fan?
When I was like 4th grade, 3rd grade or something, my buddy Matt Hillen was going to the basketball camp and he invited me to go with him. So he and I went to the basketball camp when I was like 10 or something. And Mike Krzyzewski talked with us. He talked to us for probably 20 minutes. Just like when there's this huge line when you get into the camp at Cameron Indoor Stadium, and we were in line or whatever, and he's asking everybody what you're from. He's sitting there signing everything. And I told him I was from South Dakota, and he talked about, his military background. There's an Air Force base out on the west side of the state. And we were kind of like chatting about that stuff. And then he was asking my dad about different questions and everything else. So we kept in contact after it because, I was interested in golf and everything else. And so I was like looking at going to school there or something. And I sent him a letter when I was 16 or 17 years old, just saying like, hey, thank you so much for, all that you've done for, just like corresponding, just, being nice at the camp. I went like 2 or 3 more years when I was in middle school and stuff. And he sent me back this plaque that I still have in my kitchen to this day. Jordan Klein, have you seen that plaque that I have in the kitchen? The signed Mike Krzyzewski plaque? It's pretty sick. And it's just him writing out, he gave me a letter and he had like this entire thing that he signed out. He took the time to do that. And I was just like, thank you. I ended up getting a Division I scholarship to go play golf at Iowa State. I think that your basketball camp and like a lot of the lessons I learned growing up coming to your camp are the reason why. And he sent me this huge reply back. He was just the absolute coolest dude.
I have a similar story. Mine is, so I went to Camp Greylock, summer camp. There's this guy named Doug. He was the baseball counselor. And he always wanted to give me lessons after baseball. He'd always tell me to come back. He wanted to show me how to pitch and whatnot.
I'm leaving.
Long story short, he actually got fired for pedophilia 2 years ago. So that's my version of Eric's Mike Krzyzewski story.
Yeah. So people are saying crinzies.
It's like 100% true. And also, by the way, I went to the summer camp as a kid. He was there for like 30 years.
It's a horrible story.
It's also true.
I know, but that my story was true too. It doesn't, because mine was boring and yours has a very dark, twisted turn.
People saying that they love the dark humor. This is not meant as a joke. This is something that actually happened. To make this weirder, he used to come and tuck kids into bed at night. He used to go around the camp and he would say goodnight to everybody. And he was very, very weird. 30 years he worked there before he was caught.
LeBron James likely to be sidelined multiple weeks.
Ooh, okay. So really quick, I want to go bet the Lakers to miss the playoffs.
Yep, go right now. I'm going to do the same thing. Terry Rozier just went nutties, 8-3-1. My dude.
It's the winning lineups today are just, it's going to be 8 players from the Pistons Hornets game.
I know. What if this one lineup though? That would be the greatest thing ever, to play one lineup and win everything across the board. That would be just hilarious. I haven't made just one lineup in a long time. I can't find anything right now. Is it off the board because the game started?
Yeah, most likely, but I'm just checking it out anyway.
I'm looking.
Know.
You never know.
Wins,
checked out. That's funny.
To make the playoffs.
To miss the playoffs.
Lakers not there.
Win playoffs.
Yeah, no, they're not there.
Yep, it's off the board already.
Oh, here might be one. To participate in the play-in. It's hard because this is so heavily juiced, this market, to make the play-in. The Lakers are minus 160. This is kind of nice. I posted this in my Discord chat for early on the year. My Jazz bets are kind of live again now. Jazz 14-1 to be in the play-in game.
I mean, has there ever been something that was a greater lock than like Anthony Davis getting hurt, having to play 35 minutes a game for them to just make the playoffs?
But it was also like, people think I hate the Lakers and I hate LeBron James and I hate Anthony Davis. The reality is this: the team is projected insanely high before every single season.
Mm-hmm.
And it includes no injury risk to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The odds of them going through an entire season with neither LeBron or AD getting hurt was very, very unlikely. And if LeBron or AD miss extended games, the team's just bad in those minutes.
Yep. Agreed.
Games.
Like, at least they have like some decent shooting out there now. For Anthony Davis, you just play through him the entire time, and then they still have D'Lo and everything. But I mean, floor spacing is just going to be brutal now. I mean, LeBron was kind of the catalyst for that, and you take him off the floor, it's going to be a problem for him. But like Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt's played really well for them. He is a terror on the defensive end. I think he's a little bit underappreciated. I really liked watching him in Minnesota. With my Timberwolves, we've definitely missed some of that. Jaden McDaniels has been awesome, but the absence of Jared Vanderbilt in the starting 5 for Minnesota has definitely been felt this year. Nice to see him getting a shot after Utah. It didn't necessarily work out. They're playing basketball a little bit differently, trying to just outscore everybody.
Yeah, by the way, I see Jack Mitchell. FanDuel's got it up. It's minus 290 for them to miss the playoffs.
I can't do it.
It's such a big number.
Yeah.
Such a big number.
I saw the DK. It wasn't available. I just saw the play-in game one.
Yeah. Oh, well, we made it to lock. Thank you guys very much for sticking around and hanging out with us. If you got, did we get a super chat that came in? Sorry, we got one super chat here. Cyber real estate. No better way to finish the show than with a question from Cyber real estate. What's your golf score, Eric?
Lower than yours.
Right. There we go. What's your handicap? Maybe that's what he means.
Oh, +3.
Okay. +3 handicap. That is Eric's index there. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Once again, shout out to NHA for sponsoring the show. Good luck tonight, guys. We are going to be back here tomorrow.